Enjoy some gumption. Oh, what's this? New data. But test. Yo, what's up, Davina? What do you mean, a ritual? Kind of stuff you into back there? Alright. Oh, it's Devin. My bad, bro. Yeah, I realise now, Alexander. We're calling you Davina. My bad. What's up, negative? Strange choice of name. -1 Tushy boy. What's the reason behind the name? Go to a bar, come home, argue with Christians. That's crazy. I mean, there's one way to do the weekend. Hopefully the bar is more fun than the arguing, but can't guarantee it. Alright. So, plan is to extract some points and then try the boss fight again. Not quite sure if I missed stuff in this area before. Probably have. Oh, my controller's broken still. Is that a giant rat over there? It is bloody massive. I bet it kills me as well. It's just like one of those madness rats. There we go. How many points out are we? What's up, Frizz? What's up, 12? It depends. There's like different types of Satanism. What kind of Satanism are you talking about? Yeah, in general, it's very vague. But if you're asking me personally, no, I don't think Satan exists either, to be honest. I think the idea of the adversary may come from like a Zoroastrianist type of view, but how it's used in the Abrahamic faith is more like a patch to explain away the bad things without holding God culpable. Holy Impact, you do not know what you're talking about, bro. And that guy who came up with the Big Bang Theory did that before he became Catholic. And when he did become Catholic, he explicitly told the church, being the Catholic Church, not to use his discovery or his theory as part of their teachings. He explicitly made that clear. So to claim it as a Christian thing would be against his wishes. But even that, it's not like I would care. I don't mind. I'm not one of those people who think science and religion can't coexist. Plenty of people in religions contribute to science, and of course scientists have contributed to religious lives too. So I don't personally have a problem with that, but the way you're reporting it is just basically misinformation. Nah, I've never watched that before. What's up, Alfie? It's good to know. It's good to know you know what's up, bro. Stream's just started, so I'm just warming up, playing some Elden Ring. We'll get into the actual main discussion soon, if people are really interested for that. Oh, we need bear points still. So what I want to do is just secure the next skill point before I start fighting Mesmer again. Well, yeah, religion is absolutely a man-made invention, Frizzy. You would, to be fair, like, proto-religions have been around for a very long time, but religion, how we understand it today, only begins after, like, well, you want to say centuries into civilizations. So we're moving past hunting and gathering into agriculture, farming, basically. That's when religions, as we know them, start to come about. But as I was saying yesterday, really and truly, there are only three religions, and those three religions are the Abrahamic religions. The other things that might be classified as religions is really just like a categorical term. But truthfully, if you actually look into them, for instance, like Sikhism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, etc., right, these are actually just cultural or indigenous practices. They're not designed to expand and to bring new souls into the fray, so to speak. Right? Religion, as it operates on an Abrahamic basis, is designed as an imperialistic tool. Right? So it's to expand the empire of the people on the land, and in like a hyperbolic way, the kingdom of heaven. Right? So it's designed to get more people to join it. But yeah, other cultures that's just their cultural practices. So there's really only three religions, and they're all part of the same religion. What's up, Lil? What's up, human? To be fair, I don't really watch TV, 12. I don't watch TV. I haven't watched TV for a long time. Humans invented God. I can walk you through it. I will do as the stream goes on, but I don't think you're very serious about learning anyway, so probably be a waste. This isn't the best place to mine points, apparently. Can't ride the horse here either. Let's just leg it. Well, yeah, of course we try to figure things out, but gods aren't something that's discovered. Gods are invented and developed over time. And in fact, all god concepts evolve with humans. So it's something very evident, traceable. Right? How can we make a claim like humans invented God? We can use archaeology, things that we've left behind. We can use anthropology, the study of humans, human history and culture. We can use cognitive science, the study of the mind, why people do the things they do. All these things help to build a clearer picture of how, why, and in some instances when and where humans invented God. As the stream goes on, I'll bring up some visual aids for you. Oh yeah, that guy's gonna kill me. This controller is so cooked. At Nocron area. Oh, my controller just doing what it wants. Where's Nocron? Wind farm place where there's that's in the main game. Now in the DLC you get way more points just from like random creatures than in the main game. Main game doesn't drop that many points, you know. Like at this point we're like 5th playthrough, so it's not enough. Not enough points. What's up, Kevin? That looks interesting. I don't know. Depends. When you say Vikings, it can be perceived kind of vague, right? So Vikings would subscribe to what's called Norse pantheon, or what Christians would call paganism. So it really depends. I wouldn't necessarily say their religion allowed for them to, pillage. I would say it's more to do with European culture in general. But it's possible that plays a part in it, in the same way that the Abrahamic faiths play a part in, atrocities, basically. Use the icon shield. What's that? Oh, we can use the horse now. Or the goat thing. There we go. Should make it a bit quicker. I'm gonna beat Mesmer today. I'm gonna set it as a goal to beat him. There was that one area where there's just like worms that blow up on their own. Looks like this way. What was in there? What's that blue hat? I think I know where Nocron is. Nocron's underground, isn't it? It's where you meet the wolf-faced guy. All of that's been done already. The main game is completed. This is my first time playing the DLC. Sorry, guy, but I need your points. Oh, my controller's so cooked. I hope you guys realise all this time I've been playing with a broken controller. Like stick drift. Just does what it wants. Yeah, I'm aware of that. Jesus in the New Testament didn't exist in that capacity, right? There's no evidence of a divine birth. There's no evidence of miracles. There's no evidence of resurrection. In fact, the Jesus as spoken about in the New Testament is largely myth. Now, there's an argument for a guy called Yahshua ben Joseph or something like that, who's just a normal guy, a Judaic priest who may have been an ideologue in some form. But that guy is not necessarily the same guy you're talking about as Jesus Christ. There's a lot of mythology mixed into the New Testament telling. But yes, you're Magic Man. The world's first superhero didn't actually exist like that. Trust me, I'm well informed on the topic. I'm not an expert on the topic by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm quite informed on it. So I wonder what's up there. If I go near that thing's killing me. It's gonna waste all my points. So let's leave that investigation for later. We'll come back to you, mate. Yeah. You can't be that informed since you're spewing your beliefs. You're not spewing facts. What's up, Garrett? What's up, Durin? Durin from Dragon Ball Z's in the house. Oh, we got racist people in the chat. Typical, innit? So annoying. Can we find a way to delete them? Legally? Maybe just give them guns, let them delete themselves, perhaps. Give them the internet. I'm joking. No, you can't prove free will even exists, bro. It's just a cope. I like the idea of free will, but proving it is another thing altogether. Especially in a religious context. If you think, like, put it this way, if you believe in the God of the Bible, then you can't simultaneously believe that you have free will. It'd be a contradiction. Yeah, it's Elden Ring. I too am seeking $1 million, bro. I think everyone in this chat is seeking $1 million in some form. Yes, I do seek money. Earthly riches. I think we're there. Wait, let's see. Yep, we're clear. Let's go do what we came to do. What's up, fool? How you doing? Yes, I am in the land of shadows. Why do you think mankind is unable to create gods? I don't think you give mankind enough credit. Kind of fool. I think I need to scale my character a bit. He's a bit too weak for all these bosses. Just getting tossed about like a ragdoll, which kind of makes it fun because it kind of brings you back to how the first playthrough was. If we could, folks, please tap the screen over on the TikTok side. It goes a long way. I mean, it surely doesn't hurt. What country you live in, bro? So I think we need to start putting up endurance a bit. That should help us carry heavier equipment at this point. Let's give it a little bit more. Let's not think the same. There's plenty of evidence of humans creating God, bro. Sorry, inventing God, just to be clear. Some people think God's actually a thing. So if you say created, it's like, oh, how the humans created it? Like, it's stupid. I big up Sweden, bro. Maybe, guys. There's early mornings, or it's early days. Like, stream might be dead today, Sunday. It's not usually a very active type of day for me. That's what we get. He's so vicious. Got me with 2. What is a Holy Spirit, bro? Give me a reason to think that's even a thing. No, I think Islam is exactly the same as the other two, bro. Like all three of the Abrahamic faiths have very little supporting facts, if you will, or evidences of actually being true. It's just people's beliefs. Alright, so we've got some shady characters in here. See what we can do. For the few people actually in the chat, please tap the screen so I know that you're not here to hate and you ain't gonna get blocked. Give it a minute. What do you mean by magnified? You realise God is like purely an abstract concept. There's no physical representation of a God, put it that way. Maybe that wasn't even clear enough. And the current modern understanding of what God is an immaterial spirit, a disembodied mind. That's not something that walks around on earth. Oh, that's annoying. Hey, where's my flame? Oh well. Ah, failed. Dead. Silly bastard. Excuse my French. Oh my god! Free clapped. Free got tapped. Yeah, everyone knows the watch analogy, but what's the Paisley argument? I've not heard that before. The watch analogy is really terrible. Ian, any number of things can leave you vulnerable to existential crisis. Yeah, Islam is built off Christianity and Judaism, bro. They're talking about the same God, they're just telling it from an Arab perspective, for Arab wants and needs and stuff, or the cultural needs of the Arab world. But they're literally talking about the same God. Why would I focus on fixing London? I'm not from London. You should focus on fixing New York. How about that? How about that? How about you fix DC? I heard they got terrible drug crimes going over there, even where the president lives. I'm joking. Oh my gosh. I think I need to get a new shield. I've had this shield since the beginning of my first playthrough. It's the laziest build in the world. I'm dead. Oh my days. That's a lot of things to be in one journey. It's a lot of things, not gonna lie. No, I've not heard of that before, but if you can explain it in simple terms, I'd be interested in finding out. Just stay close as you can in the first phase. I can usually get him to second phase. I just suck right now. Like, I'm rusty as hell. All hell. We'll get him to the second phase. But once I can get him to second phase consistently, then I know I'll beat him. It's just a matter of getting timing right. Yeah. go. Better. No! Oh, that damn grab! Get up, boy. Look, he went to grab him as well. Why are we using this stupid trident on him? This is dumb. Ah, okay, I see the pattern. Alright. S'il vous plaît. Let's go. Wait, messed up. Nah, proper messed up. There we go, second phase. An intelligence build. What's that like? Oh, someone's spitting Gnostic knowledge in the chat. Why should I fix London? How can humans create God using hyperactive agency detection device? It's basically assigning agency to elemental things and celestial things. And then from there, they move to phase 2, which is abstraction, things that aren't tangible. Why do they move to abstraction? To start to give themselves certainty where there's uncertainty, and come up with answers to the way the world is, the way things function in the natural world. From there, they move into phase 3, which is anthropomorphization. I said it again, anthropomorphizing. Why do they anthropomorphize? To give things human features to help organize society, which is called societal cohesion. We'll talk about it in depth later. I just want to enjoy the game for a while. Oh, my bad. I forget I chew gum. But yeah, we'll talk about the main conversation in a bit. I just want to get some gaming in. Haven't had much time to play this week, so. I don't need to read that off the screen. This is your first time here, isn't it? Hey, bro's got the RT. The little PNG thing. Like, people love to throw around this word truth. Like, how do you determine what the truth is? What parameters are you using? How do you define truth? Especially when it comes to your beliefs. How did he one-shot me? Oh my god. Oh my god, he got the one side where the shield wasn't. Oh my gosh. Alright, so let's talk about the main subject while this loads in. So, when I say humans invented God, it's what's called an explanatory claim. Right? I feel it has explanatory success because it achieves explaining the how and the why, and in some instances the when and the where. There are 3 main phases in my hypothesis to God creation, and if we examine any type of God you find, any God archetype that fits into any configuration, you will see how they fulfill these 3 phases, right, in evolutionary format. Okay. First phase of God creation is what is called assigning agency to things. Why do we do it? How do we do it? Right. I'm going to give you some visual aids so you can take a screenshot if you will, or go look into it in your own time. At various different points in the stream, I'll come back to it. Of course, it's the point of the stream to entertain you, educate you, and to decolonize your mind. But in order to do that, I have to give you some resources to actually help that happen, not just my word. So, the first phase of God creation is what's called assigning agency to things. What things do we assign agency to? Our ancestors assigned agency primarily to things like elementals, that's earth, wind, water, fire, right? And celestial bodies, that's the sun, the moon, Jupiter, Saturn, etc., planets and stars. Right? What is the device, or what is the mechanism embedded in humans which allows for this to take place? It's described as, by this guy, hyperactive agency detection device. I'll read it to you. If you're not on the mainstream, which is the Culture Crack channel or the Set West 10 TikTok, you're not going to be able to see the visual aids. So consider migrating or not. I'm not always going to read what's on the screen to you, so sometimes you'll just miss it. A hyperactive agency detection device, also known as HAD as an acronym, is a cognitive theory suggesting humans have an evolved built-in tendency to quickly attribute events and movements to intentional agents, e.g. people, spirits, gods, ghosts. Right? It's done to enhance survival even when none of those things exist. It acts like a mental smoke detector for threats, which explains beliefs in the supernatural and feelings of being watched. And I'm going to give you 2 examples of how this was used by our ancestors and how we still use this today. Okay, I'll read you the rest of the explanation or the overview. So HAD was coined by a guy called Justin Barrett. HAD posits that a false positive, seeing an agent where there isn't one, was safer in ancestral environments than a false negative, missing a real threat. When he says agent, he's just talking about a mind or something that has the capacity to act. Okay, so me, I would be considered an agent. You typing right now, you're an agent, right? Not like the Matrix sense, and not like an agency like the CIA or a job agency, right? Just for some of you, a bit slow at this. Just have to clarify these things, right? Because someone's actually said that to me before. An agency is like, anyways, right? So that's what's meant when someone says an agent, right? A mind that has the capacity to act, usually, right? So HAD was coined by a guy called Justin Barrett. HAD posits that a false positive, seeing an agent where there isn't one, was safer in ancestral environments than a false negative, missing a real threat. This hypersensitivity leads to anthropomorphizing. Anthropomorphizing means giving something human features, right? So like the moon looked down upon us, the moon smiled, right? They're things that humans do. So when describing the moon, you're anthropomorphizing it by giving it human features, right? So this hypersensitivity leads to anthropomorphizing, seeing purpose in randomness. Seeing purpose in randomness is also known as apophenia, right? Also known as pareidolia. We can talk about that later if you're interested in that. These are things that build the foundation for like sometimes conspiracy theories, sometimes religious views, sometimes mental illness, right? But they're very real, and all of us experience these things all the time. So this hypersensitivity leads to anthropomorphizing, seeing purpose in randomness, and forms the foundation for religious beliefs. So HAD, hyperactive agency detection device. How do we make use of this thing, this built-in biological mechanism today? So an example of this would be you're laying in bed and you hear a bump in the night, something in your building, something in your house, it's a loud bang, right? That loud bang is what's called sensory data. So it's input to your senses. In this case, it would be your ears, right? Sound. So this is happening in a split second, right? You're not necessarily consciously aware of this happening, right? But you'll understand as I explain it. So you're laying in bed, you hear the loud bang, that's your sensory data, right? You immediately assign agency to that sensory data, to that event. So what does that mean, assigning agency to that sensory event, right? You hear the loud bang and in your mind you go, oh, that's a burglar. Oh, that's the dog. Oh, that's one of my family members going to the fridge or something, dropping something. You've assigned an agent to that sensory data, to that event. You're not visually seeing it. You've just had a stimulation to your eardrum via sound, right? But some people go further than that, right? You can posit that there's a burglar, you can posit that there's a family member, you can posit that there's a dog, but some people take that agency detection beyond the physical realm and they will say that was a ghost, that was God, that was a demon, right? And that's how we still make use of hyperactive agency detection today. Why do we make use of that? Now here's the ancestral example of why we make use of what's called hyperactive agency detection device. Our ancestors, let's say there's Jim and James, right? Jim and James are both out foraging for berries. Jim and James both see a bush rustling. They get sensory data again, right? They got visual stimuli and they got auditory stimuli from the bush, right? Jim takes off running as soon as he experiences this data, this feedback loop, right? James stays, right? Why does Jim take off running? Because Jim has assigned agency to the bush instantaneously. He said there is an animal or something in that bush, or the bush itself is alive. By him running away, right, he gives better opportunities for survival and the survival of his genes and his genetics in the future, right? I think I just switched over to Wi-Fi, so. Right, hopefully you guys can still hear me. But yes, Jim assigning agency to the event of the bush rustling ensures Jim's survival. Right, whereas James could be right and there's nothing there, but if he's wrong, he won't live to find out. He won't live to tell the story of that happening. Okay, Jim would be gone. All right, now, so that's how we make use of it, hyperactive agency detection device in modern day, and how our ancestors make use of it. Now, just like some of us today would say that bump in the night is a ghost, some of our ancestors would have assigned an elemental event to something supernatural, right? But they wouldn't have had the, let's say, not the capacity, but just the language, the vocabulary to describe it in this way, right? So how would that look? Right, getting back to the main point, remember I explained there's three main phases in God creation. First is assigning agency to elemental things and celestial things. Okay, the second is abstraction, that's not tangible observation, that's happening psychologically, and the third is anthropomorphizing, right? Assigning human features to something. Right? Now, in that first phase, assigning agency to an elemental thing or celestial thing, this is the foundation for building out God beliefs and God configurations. Okay, so ancestral environment again. An ancestor of us in the hominidae family tree is out just living his best life, hunting, gathering, doing whatever he's doing, thinking about what the future might be like, right? And he experiences what me and you today know to be a thunderstorm, right? It could be, we could change this out for an earthquake, we could change this out for a volcanic eruption, it doesn't matter. He experiences something striking, right? Something that induces awe in you, right? So he experiences what me and you today know to be a thunderstorm. So that means the sky blackens and thunder bellows, and then he sees the event that me and you understand to be lightning. So a flash come out of the sky and burn or explode something on the ground, right? To him, he doesn't have the vocabulary or the understanding of these events to describe what they are, right? Not yet at this point, right? So what happens, just like you, the person who hears the bump in the night and you assign agency to that bump in the night, he assigns agency to the event of the storm or the lightning. So he says in few words, again, this is happening subconsciously, I have a mind. I don't understand what that thing is. Therefore, that thing must have a mind too, or there is a mind who is in control of that thing. And through that event, he goes on to tell the story if he survives, which he obviously would survive, or else this wouldn't have taken place. He goes on to tell the story of that event, and over time it becomes legend, it becomes lore, and then the event of the storm gets deified. It becomes a god, it becomes an entity unto itself. And that builds the basis for like proto-religions and proto-rituals. Then they go about ways of trying to appease the elemental god, which would be lightning in this case, to make sure it doesn't strike. Why do they do this? It's about survival. Okay, if you can warn others of the story of the thunderstorm, you can ensure the survival of yourself and your people. And it's not just the thunderstorm, it happens with tsunamis, it happens with earthquakes, it happens with volcanic eruptions, it happens with eclipses, right? The sun and the moon, right? Celestial bodies, right? That's the first foundation for God building in principle, right? Assigning agency to things. The how is survival primarily and explanation, but the why, the how is the had and the why is survival, right? Hyperactive agency detection device. It's still built into us, we still make use of it today. Now the second phase of God creation is what's called abstraction, right? So we're moving on beyond just observation. Now we're thinking about things that don't have a tangible representation. Things like love, things like magic, things like creation, things like death. These things aren't things you can hold in your hand like the dirt or, you know, or like water. These are things that are purely conceptual, but this is an evolutionary like transition. We now gain the capacity for conceptualizing, right? Thinking deeply about things that aren't physically there. Okay, this is where we start to formulate concepts like love, like magic, to explain our surroundings, right? Start to give certainty where there's uncertainty. Even if we're completely wrong about these things, to come up with an idea is to produce answers towards solving a problem. And that gives us abstraction, right? These abstract views about how the world is. The abstract ideas, they vary vastly. But I'm just giving you just some basic ones. Things like love, things like creation. Right? And you'll see these things like knowledge, right? For instance, the god of learning, a god of knowledge is something you'll see coming up, right? So phase 1, assigning agency to things based on observation. Phase 2, abstraction for psychological needs. Now phase 3 is anthropomorphizing, right? And this is still an evolutionary trajectory. Phase 1 and 2 was mainly like hunting and gathering. More so, in phase 2 is a little bit more advanced than just hunting and gathering. But phase 3 is full on agriculture, polis, civilization building. Right, this is the beginning of making cities beyond villages and stuff like that. We've got food covered. Now we can start moving on to things like religion and thought and mathematics and all these kinds of interesting things. In the earliest forms, though, mind you, right? We're not talking about how we are today. We're talking about the trajectory of human. Again, humans tell the story of human history through their God creations, through their religions, right? Which we'll realise hopefully at some point in the stream. So to help, again, as a visual aid, I'm going to put on a screen a not even close to exhaustive list of gods, right, from different regions, different cultures at different periods of time, just to help you give an understanding, to give you an understanding of what I'm talking about here, right? Again, if you're watching on the vertical stream over on YouTube, you need to come over to the main channel, which is Culture Crack on YouTube, Culture Crack on Twitch, and Set West 10 on TikTok if you want to be part of the bigger conversation where the chat is. Because you can't see this, only the main channels can see it. Right. So the three phases I was talking about: phase 1, assigning agency to elemental and celestial things; phase 2, abstract things, right, psychological needs; and phase 3, anthropomorphizing, giving things human natures. But why do we give things human natures in this capacity? It's to organize society for what's called societal cohesion, right? In phase 3, we stack phase 1 and 2 with the third, anthropomorphizing, because we're becoming more and more advanced, right? Doing it this way allows for what's called mobilizing people under ideologies. It lays the foundation for proto-religions, which go on to become the religions we have today. Right? So let's give some visual examples. Right. So we have a list on the screen of gods from different regions at different times. Right. Although your God of the Bible isn't on here, he's also included in this conceptualization. The God of the Bible's genealogy starts out as a guy called Yahweh, a storm god and a warrior god. Right? I could add him to the list, but why bother? But we'll get to that in a bit. So, the first region on the list is a place called Mesopotamia, modern day Iraq. Right? Mesopotamia is a region of the world which is now kind of known as the Levant-ish area. Right? It's a little bit skewed. But Mesopotamians are the ancestors of the Jews and the Israelites, okay, Canaanites, Amalekites, all these people. Right? So Mesopotamia, one of the oldest known civilizations on the planet. I'll show you some artifacts from there later because it helps build out the story that you find in the Bible. Mesopotamia, modern day Iraq, they produce a god called Enlil. Right? So how can we know this? We use archaeology. That means the study of things found in the ground, carvings, potteries, textiles, texture, all these kinds of things, right? Books, papyri, right? And we use anthropology, study of the human cultures, the ancestors of these people, what they know about the cultures. So that's how we find out the roles of these people, these gods, and how they played a part in their societies. So we use archaeology, anthropology, right, in terms of knowing things about the past this way. So region, Mesopotamia, modern day Iraq. They produced a god called Enlil. This god's role or domain was god of wind, air, and storms. This is quite a common feature of gods you'll find across the world, right? Why? Because it's a phase 1 type of god. It's observation based, right? It's elemental or celestial. So Mesopotamia, Enlil, god of wind, air, and storms, found in the Sumerian culture. Egypt, Northern Africa, another one of the oldest civilizations on the planet, right? They produced a god called Ra. This is a sun god and a creator god. A sun god is a phase 1 type of god. It's celestial, right? But creator god is a phase 2 amalgamation, right? Creation is something abstract. You can't hold creation, but you can express creation, okay? Ra is also anthropomorphic, but again, just for the visual aid, just we'll walk through it step by step, right? So, Egypt, Northern Africa, they produced a god called Ra, which is a sun god and a creator god, found in ancient Egypt. Greece, Europe, another one of the oldest civilizations, right? They produced a god called Zeus. He's king of the gods and the god of sky and thunder. Being a king of a god is anthropomorphic. Anthropomorphic. It directly mirrors human hierarchy. Where are kings found? In a societal configuration called monarchies. Right? Kings aren't found out there in the sky. You don't discover kings on the ground. Humans produce the concept of kings. Okay, it's just something anthropomorphic. So it directly mirrors human hierarchy. So Zeus is the king of gods. That would be a phase 3 creation, but he also has stacking of phase 1, which is god of sky and thunder, right? Something elemental. Right? Norse, Scandinavia, a god called Odin they produced. This god's role and domain is wisdom, war, death, and magic. That is completely abstract, right? Those aren't things you can necessarily observe. You can observe death, but like death isn't something tangible you can hold, right? It's conceptualized. Understand what does death even entail, right? Wisdom, war, magic, similar kind of thing, right? So Odin is also a hierarchical god. Under Odin you find Thor, right? And other gods of that pantheon. Okay. India, South Asia, Shiva, god of destruction and transformation. India and Indus Valley, again, one of the oldest civilizations, right? So yeah, destruction and transformation is a phase 2 type of god, right? But you could pick any region on this like short list of gods and ideas. Even within these regions there are different gods, right? Different religions, different not necessarily civilizations, but different groups of people that have lived and passed away that produced their ideas. Put simply, right, how humans invent gods follows this trend of 3 main phases. Even the god of the Bible, right, we walk through the genealogy of the god of the Bible. He starts out in a similar way in order to become what you know today as an immaterial spirit, a disembodied mind, a 3O god, right, omniscient, omnipotent, omnibenevolent. Okay. But yes, that's how we invent gods, okay? If you had to explain all of this in a simple way that a child could understand, it's this. Historically, there's never been one singular type of god. At different points in history, different regions and different cultures have all produced their own concepts of God. And these individual concepts of God slot into even like more advanced configurations of gods, right? Let me give you I said I was explaining it simple for a child, but 1 second. Right. So God configurations are these, right? Your monotheism, polytheism, henotheism. So those individual gods that we just looked at on that list fit into different configurations, which are the systems that contain the gods, right? But anyway, back to the simple explanation. Historically, there has never been one universal idea of a god. Different cultures in different regions at different times have all produced their own types of gods. No one in human history has ever gone out onto their native land and discovered the god of another land. Humans produce gods based on their own cultural experience and needs. Right? If we look at that list again, you can see that's exactly what's been happening. For instance, this is an example I like to use since I'm British and I live in the British Isles, right? So the Celtic god, the Celts, right? Western Europe, modern day Britain, they produced a god called Brigid, the goddess of healing, poetry and smithing. It's hyper specific to the needs of the people that produced it. The Celts wouldn't have gone out onto the British Isles and discovered Yahweh from the Levant, the god of storms and wars, the god of the Israelites. Right? They would not have discovered that, right? They would not have discovered Zeus from the Greeks. They would not have discovered Ra from the Egyptians, okay? Humans produce gods based on their cultural needs and their environments, and those gods and cultural needs, etc., work into the best configuration for them. Right? So back to the configurations. Even the god configurations don't come about at the same time. Right? These god configurations come about at different points in history. In fact, monotheism as we understand it today from the Levant's telling, that means the Abrahamic faiths, that's Christianity, Judaism and Islam, comes around in the 6th century BCE. Right? The oldest god configuration on this list is known as animism, and it's still practiced by indigenous peoples across the planet today. Animism is what is called spirits inhabiting nature. So that could be spirits of animals or spirits of your ancestors. Right? But that being said, right, here's something for you to look at. Monotheism, one all-powerful god, is found in Christianity, Islam and Judaism. Polytheism, many gods with different roles, as found in Greek, Norse and Hinduism. Henotheism, one main god but others exist. That's early Israel and some Hindu sects. Why is that early Israel? Again, if we look into the genealogy of the god of the Bible, The Israelites lived in a henotheistic society, which is to say our tribe has our God, that tribe has its God, that tribe has its God, and our gods and tribes compete, they battle against each other. So they acknowledge the existence of that tribe's God as well as their own, but they say our God is our top dog, right? In that henotheistic system in early Israel, they had a god called Yahweh, a storm god and a warrior god. That's the Israelites. The Canaanites had a god called El Elyon or Elohim, which is like a Thor or a Ra or a Osiris, you know, a top dog god with gods underneath it in a pantheon. Within the Canaanite pantheon, they had Elohim as the top, Asherah as his wife, and then Marduk and Baal, right? Through the history of the Israelites and the Canaanites, which are kind of like the same people, just in a different area of the region, the Israelites take elements from El Elyon, Elohim, and make Yahweh become the king god, right? And he becomes the father, God the Father. They have an exile, apparently, right? A lot of people will argue that the things found in the Old Testament and the Torah aren't necessarily historical facts, more about identity building and preservation of cultures, right? But anyways, apparently they had an exile to Egypt, right? And then from Egypt back. And when they returned back after Egypt, they met a group of people called the Zoroastrianists, which you'll find in dualism, two opposing cosmic powers, Zoroastrianism and Gnosticism. The Zoroastrianists were enlightened in that region of the world at that period of time, and they imparted onto the Israelites the idea of duality, cosmic forces, good and bad, light and dark, and monotheism. Right? That's when the Israelites decided we will leave henotheism behind and only have one God. Right? That kind of genealogy, right, lets you understand that Yahweh, who becomes God the Father, also known as Adonai, Hashem, Jehovah, is no different than Thor, Ra, and Lil, Enki, like whoever, not Enki, but you know what I mean? Any of the other gods you saw on the list, there's no reason to consider the God of the Bible or Allah or, you know, any of those people within that Abrahamic configuration any different to any other god. They all follow the same evolutionary trajectory. God creation, God concept creations map almost one-to-one with human evolution. As I said, when I say humans invented God, it's what's called an explanatory claim. And how do you support it? With archaeology, anthropology, and cognitive science. In my hypothesis, there are three main phases of God creation: assigning agency, abstraction, and anthropomorphizing. And all gods so far that I've come across fall neatly into this category. This explanatory claim also has predictive power for God concepts that you'll come across in the future, God beliefs you'll come across, without having to posit the existence of any supernatural entities. Now, I'm not saying it's like I'm just a normal guy, right? But it's pretty well explained, right? It's pretty provable. There's enough evidence to support these kinds of claims in this kind of inductive case that humans invented God. Whereas there being evidence for gods, any of the gods we've discussed actually existing, there isn't enough evidence to say they ever did. So if you want to know my personal opinion on this, right, where I stand on this, and I'll repeat it several times in the stream, is this: all known gods are psychological constructs. That means they're just like immaterial ideas, and they do not exist independently of the mind. If your God requires belief, imagination, or faith to interact with, it's functionally non-existent. That means it's not interacting with the world as an independent agent in any meaningful way. So, without the explainers, I'll say it. All known gods are psychological constructs and do not exist independently of the mind. If your God requires belief, imagination, or faith to interact with, it is functionally non-existent. It requires somebody to devise a concept of God and impart it to you for you to interact with, or you yourself have to devise a concept of God in order to interact with it. As far as I'm aware, there's never been evidence found of gods existing as independent entities or agents capable of having any meaningful effect on our physical material reality, right? An agent, in simple terms, is just a mind with the capacity to act, right? But yeah, like what's on the screen is called the Epic of Gilgamesh from the Mesopotamians. I said I was going to show you some artifacts, so just quickly go through it before we get back to the game. Right, so yeah, Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest known texts produced by the ancestors of the Israelites, etc. The Ark Tablet, produced by the Mesopotamians or the Sumerians, again, the foundation for what's called Noah's Ark flood, what becomes the Noah's Ark flood, the flood story. Right? Go look into this for yourself if you actually care to. Right? And there's one more that looks like a hot pocket. See where are you? There we go. And there's this tablet, known as the creationist tablet, which sets the foundations for what's found in Genesis. Okay. Whether you choose to subscribe to this stuff or not, it makes no difference to me. It's just these things pertain specifically to the religions that come from the Levant. Right? There are different cultures across the world with like different views on how the world came to be, different ideas on what gods are, etc. But the most popular telling, or put it this way, the most imperialist driven version of religions come from the Abrahamics, okay, which is why they're so popular. You know, they were driven by empire and conquest. They still are to this day. So most people's understanding of what God is, what God does, what the things about God come primarily from the Abrahamic faiths. Right? That's not everyone, but most people. So that's the region known as the Levant, right? Where most of the stuff in the Old Testament and stuff takes place. But anyways, who cares? Let's play the game. And at various times, I'll try to explain all this again. If you missed all of the stuff on the screen, it's because you're not on the right stream. The right stream is the Culture Crack channel or the Set West 10 TikTok. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to read your chat and interact with you. I will. Just kind of got to remember why we do these streams in the first place. All right. So we're going to get trashed by this guy. Yeah. But anyways, if you think your God actually does exist, then, you know, feel free to present something convincing. What's up to infinity and beyond? What's up, nothing to do? Kevin Banks, Anonymous, Mohammed, Barbara. What's up? What's up, Mod? Kobe. Thanks for the follow, mother. What's up, Meep? Zip. What's up? Thanks for follow, ads. John, what's up? Carp, what's up? Dickachi, what's up, bro? See if you're interested in those in the chat. Alright, cool. Let's do some playing. My controller is busted. You know, I was thinking that today I'd be more chilled and play Sleeping Dogs instead. Why would you think a specific person created water? What's the reason to think that? Yep, Snake Boss guy. So I mean, you're still subscribing to an ancient creationist myth. There's no reason to think of it as a who. Things come about from natural processes, right? That means there's no mind, there's no intervention happening. You're entitled to think and believe what you want. It's what you can demonstrate to be true, bro. So far, no one's ever been able to demonstrate that their God belief or God view has been responsible for anything. So, you should keep that in mind, probably. I hate it when they grab people. Look at that. Do you know what might help as well? Some kind of stamina buff. Because his attacks, even if you block them, they take a hell of a lot of stamina from you. Dirty fighter. Get up, man. Damn it. Why does he take so long to get up? Yeah, but what is a spiritual being? What does that even mean? What do you mean when you say spirit? Like, people have these like modern views on things like spirits and souls, but then when you like investigate it a bit closer, it's usually, actually, you know what, I don't know what I mean by that. It's just terms that get thrown about. Now, me personally, I think ideas of the spirit and the soul were like not ancient, but just archaic views of what we now know as like the psyche, the mind, right? You know, but maybe you know something I don't, right? We're gonna need to upgrade this character to something terrible. He's just getting tossed about. Alright. Yeah, but that's what I mean. There's a lot of like just vague. I don't know. Not wispy, but like there's a word for it. It's like woo woo kind of stuff. Some people are like, oh, we're all just God experiencing the like, and then other people are like, we're all just the universe experiencing itself. It's like, yeah, these notions they sound good, but what do they really mean? You know, how can one be sure that you're right about any of that? You little snake. I'm dead. Ooh, if I didn't drink that. Come on, we're halfway there. That's it. That's pretty accurate. I'd say that's definitely more third phase though. I think although there's like people who have like nefarious uses for gods in the past however many thousand years, I don't think it initially started as that. It was way more innocent. In my opinion, right? Could be wrong. It could have been malicious from the beginning, who's to say? Yeah, it's definitely a scam, bro. If you actually examine, again, like I was saying yesterday, I'm starting to understand that the only real religions are the Abrahamics, and they function exactly like an expanding empire. And it's truly a pyramid scheme, because what do they tell their followers to do? Go out and gain souls. Not necessarily the Jews, because the Jews, their religion is built on an ethnicity, right, a tribe. Even though there's like a lot of argumentation about who is actually a Jew and who is not. You know, this whole European version of it. And that. Excuse me. But yeah, Christianity and Islam primarily, their view of religion is about expanding the empire, whether that be on the ground or the kingdom of heaven in air quotations. So, I forgot what I was going to say. There was a point to that. So I'll get back to it after this. Oh my god, bro. Right. That was it, yeah. So it's like a pyramid scheme. That's what I was describing. So yeah, in terms of religion, they're designed to expand control in that kind of capacity. Right? I was examining Christendom the other day and looking out like religion has directly been in cahoots with politics and power since the beginning. It's the same kind of thing, and it's about the expansion of control, the attainment of resources. But you should always keep in mind, religion is a secondary topic to God. Right? Religion is about humans, human happenings, human cultures, primarily. And again, how they form, why we can say that really the Abrahamics are the only religions is because they are imperialist vehicles. They're designed to expand the empire. Right? Whereas if you look at other cultures, we would say no, that's just a cultural practice. Like you don't see Hindus evangelizing, you don't see Sikhs evangelizing, you don't really see Buddhists evangelizing. Like all these other things that we consider religions too, we just put them in the religion category, but they're not the same as Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Those three function primarily different from most belief systems. Yeah. Hence why the argument that monotheism is the most destructive configuration is very prevalent. It's quite obvious. Right? As the more I read in this unholy what was it called again? I forget what it's called. Unholy alliance, right? Is the more I'm realizing that. So I dug into it more last night. It was like, okay, this is interesting. This guy was telling like two events of Jewish teaism, right? So he's talking early one. I think it's like 90s, right? I've forgotten the guy's name. It's like Bakan Goldstein or something like that. Basically, this guy was a mad Jewish guy. He just did some crazy terror attack in Israel. Well, at the time it would have been Palestine. And then there was this. So yeah, actually that was the thing, right? After I read it, I tried to Google the guy to find him, and he was nowhere on the internet. So apparently there's this guy who was called Commander something Wolf, Shlomo Wolf, right? Wolf with an E, Shlomo, right? Apparently, while he was on one of their excursions in a place called Lod, Lod, they fragged a mosque, and the survivors of the mosque, right? So basically, it was like he was trying to say, through the Zionist mission, they couldn't allow for themselves to be seen desecrating a holy place, because what light that would put their mission in would be a detriment to their mission, right, of setting up Israel as a safe haven after not Auschwitz, what's it called again, the Holocaust, right? So what he's arguing is the racism and the oppression that Jews experience is kind of giving them a license to carry out the same oppression, right, in a way. But he was saying during this specific incursion, if that's what it's called, right? That's probably not the right word. But anyways, right? During this specific event, right, they couldn't allow the Zionist mission to be tainted by them destroying a place of worship because it looks bad on them, right? So what happened was they fragged a mosque where people were praying in it, and then they went in there and they saw there's like blood and guts. There's like 25 people unalived in this mosque, and the commander was like, actually, we can't allow for this to get out to the public, so what we need to do is clean it. So what they done was have the survivors of it clean all the bodies and all of the blood, and then at the end he realized this guy's called Shlomo Wolf, right? I tried to look for him afterwards after reading it, but I couldn't find it, right? They got the survivors to clean up all the bodies and all the blood in the mosque. I think it was a mosque, right? It's a place of worship anyways, right? And then he realised, oh, actually, we can't allow this to get out, so we're going to have to kill the survivors as well. I don't laugh, it's not funny, right? But that is real. It actually happened, okay? So why it's done that way is so the religion and the vehicle... So the religion is the vehicle, but politics-wise, Zionism is off the back of it. The same thing happens in Christianity, same thing happens in Islam, right? But why it was done in that way is so the actual overarching Judaism and Zionism can remain in the light, or how he describes it, the illusion of innocence, right? In the same way that Christianity's been doing its atrocities. The book is called Unholy Alliance, like it's religious atrocities. It's very interesting. The guy I said yesterday that he was Jewish. I think I'm wrong about that. He's a professor in Jewish studies, right? But yeah, it's the reason things like that happen, like I just explained with the Shlomo Wolf guy, is so they can maintain an air of innocence. So when these atrocities do happen, like I think it was like Carl Rittenhouse, all those other people that just like go and shoot up places, they're allowed to do what's called the no true Scotsman fallacy. So like when it's a Muslim terrorist, they'll be like, that's not a real Muslim. When it's a Christian terrorist, they'll be like, that's not a real Christian. When it's a Jewish terrorist, they'll be like, that's not a real Jew, right? It allows for the actual religion or the institution to maintain a veil of innocence, while all the while the people acting doing these things are actually acting based on the principles that the religion and the institution instill on them. Sure, they're doing it as extremists, but they're not operating outside of the framework of the religion. They're taking specific pieces of the religion and acting on them to its extremities, right? So you can't really say that they're not really Christians, they're not really Muslims, they're not really Jews, because they're actually using what's there in their doctrine. Okay, the book is called Unholy Alliance, right? One sec. It's called this. No, see, the thing is, right, yes, we could describe them as fanatics, right, but fundamentally they're not really, right? They're not really. As I was kind of brushing over earlier on, the events of the Holocaust give them that kind of go ahead in the name of protecting Jews from future suffering. Do you understand? So it's like, the persecuted become the persecutor in hopes to prevent more persecution, kind of thing. But the same thing has happened in Christianity, the same thing has happened in Judaism, the same thing has happened in Islam, right? It's very interesting. But yes, in terms of like why you would say they're imperialist vehicles, is because it's exactly that. Judaism, Christianity and Islam all seek to expand their empire, which is the religion primarily, or where their their followers live and inhabit, right? Whether that be ethnically or just like just settler wise, okay. And when you mix that in with the ideology of monotheism, it's not harmonious. It just causes, like the writers describing, plenty of atrocities that can be supported by the religion. So when it happens in the name of the religion can maintain a veil of innocence, and they tend to remain silent on these issues because what it entails. But hey, thanks for donuts, bro, and a follow. Appreciate that. But yeah, I don't mean to be a dick about it, but I've been saying it for ages. Like, they're not the good guys, and that's not one specific group. Just institutional religions in general, right? What they've been involved with historically, what they've sanctioned, they're not the good guys, bro. But that's a conversation we can get into later. The main conversation is humans invented gods. Alright. So we powered up. And even yesterday, scrolling through TikTok, and I see this live stream of a patriotic alternative rally in England somewhere, right? These guys are up on the stage, like, just shouting racist rhetoric, and the crowd's just going, yeah, like, send them back, like, all these crazy, and it's like the police are just standing there doing nothing, right? What is the format, like the software that's running underneath that crazy racism? We're all Christians, right? Go ask them. Right? like man, like it's crazy, right? You go watch the Islamists doing the same thing, you watch the Jews doing the same thing, right? It's like, okay, so at which point are we going to acknowledge that it's the ideology producing this or allowing for this? Can we say that the people that are like ultra racists are the outliers, or are they the core group? Right? So this is it's insane. Right? But anyways, maybe I'm not describing what I mean properly. Yeah, you can't say that's. See what Topher is saying? He's using the same no true Scotsman fallacy. You're not doing the right way. Right? Who are you to say what the right way is? Right? Are you more Christian than the Pope? No, you're not. Right? Popes of the past have sanctioned atrocities, but are you more Christian than them? No, right? You more Muslim than the Ayatollah or whatever that guy's called? No, right? You more like Jewish than Netanyahu or whoever runs their thing? No, you're not. Like, so. Who are you to say that, right? You're just an underling within a pyramid scheme, ultimately. You don't actually know what the truth of your group experience is. You're like a Johnny-come-lately in terms of time, even in terms of understanding of the ideology, of the text. So who are you to say they're not true Christians, they're not true Muslims, they're not true Jews? So it's just you coping. You want to be able to maintain that veil of innocence, but it's just simply not there. Oh, murked me. Right, there's no beating this boss today. I think we're going to play something else just for the fun of it. Alright, as I said earlier on, you guys in religion like to throw around the word truth, and we start to ask you, what do you mean by truth? Which parameters are you using to determine what truth is? Right? What is the system you're using? You fall apart quickly because it turns out to be your beliefs, your hopes, your faith, not anything to do with truth, at least not in a logical sense. Because religious beliefs do not follow logic. They're anti-logic. I forget there's a word for it, right? But if you want to be close to truth, you should not be anywhere near religion. That's what you should know, but it's a different conversation. How many religious propositions are valid? I'm just trolling. Sometimes, right? Like, I'll just be sitting there, then I think of Boris Johnson, and he's like, what did he say? You abdicated your duty to scrutinize, or something like that. It's like great supine protoplasmic vertebrate jellies. That's what I think you man are, to be honest. But that's funny. Anyways, let's stop all the funny shit, bro. The topic is humans invented God. Let's play something else for a bit. Should we ever go at this? It's been ages since I played that. Let's do that bit. Great supine protoplasmic invertebrate jellies. Let's put on a kettle as well, alright. What? How's it download the stuff without my permission, man? Shit, that boy moving. See, that's what I'm saying. You can't be anywhere near your religious configurations of God and thinking that you're following truth and logic. How can your God concept be outside of space, time, and matter, but be responsible for space, time, and matter? Right? These are contradictions. This is why, like, just sit in the corner and acknowledge what you endorse is beliefs. It doesn't have to follow reality. In fact, it's quite contrary. I forget. There's a word for it, right? It's contra reality or something like that. Stop the cat. It's contrafact. I was wrong, it's counterfact. Anyways, right? Stupidity aside. Bro. To borrow from Ian, right? You can't be outside of space and time and produce space and time. Okay? Creation... time is a prerequisite for creation. Time is a prerequisite for change. In order for something to go from point A to point B, it's temporal. So something has to happen. There's time at play. So you can't create time. It would be contradictory. And as we currently understand, space and time are like inextricably tied together. Bro, that's your imagination and your belief. How do you substantiate that claim? You don't know what an immaterial spirit is. You don't know how it functions or why it would function. These are things you're claiming. These are not things you can demonstrate, and they're largely unfalsifiable. Right? But that's fine if you believe that, but please stop talking as if it's a fact, because it's not even close to a fact. It's been so long since I played this. Oh, what's this then? They've put difficulties in now? Oh, you guys got it too easy. When did they start adding difficulties to it? I guess. This never used to be a thing. Okay, it's been a now lying. It's been a while since I played this, to be fair. Anyways, right. I'm saying humans invented God. All known gods are psychological constructs and do not exist independently of the mind. If your God requires belief, imagination, or faith to interact with, it's functionally non-existent. It requires somebody devise a concept of God and impart it to you for you to interact with, but you yourself have to devise a concept of God in order to interact with it. As far as I'm aware, there's never been any evidence of gods existing in any meaningful way, or existing as agents capable of having any meaningful effect on our physical reality. I know I'm jargoning you to death, but for those who know. In simple terms, there's no proof your God exists outside of your mind. Bro, of course change requires time. Do you realise the stupidity that you're arguing against? This is what I'm talking about, the cognitive dissonance. Don't even waste your time arguing about that. We was on a boss, bro. I need to take it easy. I can't remember how to play the game. They're just adding in everything from the Souls games, aren't they? It's just copy. That's typical theft, intellectual theft, mate. Alright, so it's been so long. Didn't mean to do that. Shit. I cannot remember the buttons. Guess we should just walk in there and die then. What did I just use? Pulse cell. Yeah, we're cooked till we go now without those. I'm sure there was like a button to grind the sword. Probably should just start it from the beginning, right? So there was a button to grind the sword, or to fix it. It tells you the L1 square. Right, I ain't got no power cells. I'm just gonna die. It's giving me tutorials. Okay. It's been ages. Yeah, it's right out here. The Bible was created by people writing stuff down, bro. Different people for that. Some completely anonymous. Don't even know who wrote half the Bible. I think this guy was vulnerable to electric or something like that. Saying that. Is this arm the right arm? Oh, wait. Where's the roll? Aw, mate. Yeah, you messed up already. Alright, we should probably get our bearings fighting those guys. What was peer reviewed? No, all God concepts go through evolution. Right? To think about how people understand God now in modern times, the original God concepts did not start like that. Almost all God started based on assigning agency to elemental things and celestial things. You know? No, like although there are geniuses among us, I doubt the geniuses among us would spend their time cooking up God ideas. They just end up indoctrinated into religions, and then they help to buttress those called using what's called post hoc rationalizations, borrowing from things like science and philosophy to add to theology. But most God concepts started out from our ancestors, very basic, which is observational things found in nature. Oh my god. Right, yeah, I've got no business starting a game at this point. Fuck it, let's just go in there and see what happens. This was a time-based fight, or like a... This should be significantly easier coming from playing Souls so much, but well out of practice. Oh, he's got a stamina bar. Didn't even realise that. Do you know, I have completed this game before, by the way, but it was a couple of years, maybe like a year or two now. I should have brought in a help. I'm dead. Oh wait, that means I can there we go. Get into position. Give him a go. We're cooked. This is only phase 1 as well, you know. What I should have done was spam him with the electric stuff. Oh, idiot. Cooked. Anyways. Who said Newton invented gravity? Alright, yeah, so people are just saying crazy, unconnected things. I'll be right back. So what is the chat actually saying? Yeah, unconnected, right? It's a lot of apophenia floating about in the chat. And all of them. The universe is not a proof of your God, bro. Not even close. just a claim. That is what apophenia is. As I was talking about earlier on, inside of the hyperactive agency detection device, you'll find apophenia too. So on the screen is an overview of what it is. Apophenia is a human tendency to perceive meaningful patterns and connections or significance in random, unrelated data or coincidences. It was coined by a guy called Klaus Conrad in 1958. It is a common cognitive experience, often called paternicity, ranging from seeing faces in clouds, pareidolia, to superstitions or conspiracy theories. While often normal, extreme forms can indicate psychosis. And you're seeing a lot of that in the chat. But again, like if you go listen to a lecture by Robert Sapolsky on the psychology of religion, you'll see how these kinds of, let's say, neurodivergent things are consistent in the foundation of religious beliefs anyway. You realise there's like more than one chat happening, right? I'm just like scanning over all three of them, but no one's really saying anything interesting. The game's called Liza P. Am I sniffing the coffee? Now I am. Yeah, the coffee is hot. It's in a thermos as well, so that means it's going to be hotter for longer. It is Liza Poop. I thought it would be fun to give it a try after a long time. See how it goes. Because humans invented God Sab, that's why. Yeah, I've played all the Dark Souls. I'm on the third one. I've got to beat the final boss. I don't know if I'll be able to beat him, to be honest. It's quite hard. Maybe that's what we should be playing instead. Not got to play Demon Souls yet. Wait, why isn't that fully charged? But I've only just switched this on, so let's see how it goes. Oh, that's annoying. Alright. Does he have a lamp in this? I think he does, doesn't he? There you go. This game is so Freemason, bro. It's ridiculous. If you experience apathy, though, you probably would want to play this game. Ultra Mason. Mason Ultra. Oh, I'm joking. Yeah, it's full of it though. After all, next one's gonna be Alice in Wonderland probably. Alright, how do we get out there? Go down, bro. What are you waiting for? I mean, this game does get good towards the end, though, but it takes quite a long time to get to that area. It does get pretty interesting, but a very late game. Oh, I forgot about these guys. You know, shitbags. Oh, what a retarded thing to say. Why would I think that's true, Jay? Jay the Harbuck. Why would I think that any of that is true? You like that amplification, yeah? Good. We're trying to reach your magic extended warranty. I'm joking. Man's gotta live, bro. I'm enjoying this Sunday with you guys. Hopefully you're enjoying it with me. It's just having the old sip of the old coffee cough. Well, you asked for it, bro. Guy was complaining about the slurp sound, so I made the slurp sound. That's what you get. Perhaps I shall lower the difficulty. What's a Palm Sunday? I don't drink tea, bro. Tea's for girls. That's where I said it. Only men drink coffee. Drink it black, no sugar, no milk, no nothing. Just hard, bitter taste. Signify the reality of life. What? How am I getting hit? Wait, let me get out of the way here. Now, how I get brought into this? I'm getting beaten up, but I'm not even in the main space. Oh yeah, there's like a cube you can use to buff the secondary characters. Oh, that was weird. Also been using this silly rapier sword since the beginning. Might want to upgrade that at some point. I'm getting mugged. Look at my guy, he's dead. I did better when I was fighting on my own. Oh my lord. Yeah, I suck. Louder. Cat poop beans, don't care, right? If I don't see the cat poop, then it didn't happen. Like when you start thinking about the food industry and how things are processed, or I think coffee beans are probably the least of your worries. You know what I mean? No, why would I try a law? Sounds terrible. Just told you I like black coffee. It would be ideologically opposed. I'm joking. sounds horrible. Why would you ever wish that on me? I'm just blown. Do you want to see me suffer? Bro, can you give me a reason to think souls actually exist in the first place? Oh, that's an interesting point. I wonder if there's like a little buff glitch in this. You can just go to the respawn point. I should give that a try. Alright, let's run out before I even get to my bet. Huh? Oh yeah. Ah. I proper suck at this. Timing ain't my forte. Drink, boy. Dead, boy. I did kind of think the first time playing this, it was quite a lot of the map is quite bland. Eh? Oh, he's cheating me out. Come on, at least second phase. There we go. Alright, finally. How would you know? How can you listen to anybody telling you what's going to happen after you die when they're still alive? How the hell would you possibly know? Games lies are P. Wouldn't recommend. I'm joking. This game is just like... it's like what you expect. Just bare intellectual property theft. I don't think I've ever noticed him speaking before. Hey! Oh my god. He's killing my guy. He's dead. Leave him alone. I'm dead. I realise this is one of those games you're supposed to time the parries, but I just suck at that. Plus the delay, it just ain't gonna get me there. I think you can also throw a bunch of power cells at this guy. Oh, what in the world? I'm dead now, boy. Gee whiz. Yeah. Oh, Lord. That ain't gonna help me in this. Yeah, I'm dead. I ain't got no items left. Alright. At least we got phase 2 this time. Some moving. Alright. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to see. Nah, it doesn't work. So what else we got here? Power cells, I think. Yeah, that's what you got to spam it with. Ah, that's what I could do. Oh, he pulled off twice. Cheater. Oof. Oh lord. Yeah, I'm cooked. Alright, let's go. If I'm so sure... Oh, look at this guy. Bro thinks he's a Jedi. You got no chance here, son. Hype? No, man. I played this game ages ago. I just thought I'd just give it a try, so we weren't getting anywhere in Elden Ring. In fact, I got the disc version of this. Been around a long time. Shit, I think, yeah, maybe I'd have bought it after my birthday or something like that a couple of years back. What the oh my god. God damn it. Didn't they just ban that? You can't preach in the streets anymore, hopefully. About time. That's what you want to do. Let's see here. What's in the bag? Oh, God's sake. Said Bruce migrated to his other account. That's jokes. Right. Idiot! Oh my god. Look at away. so nice. We could just go back to the bloody checkpoint with one button. So it'll never be a Souls game, damn it. I mean, yeah, you don't often get like Batman-esque games, though, to be fair. Like the actual Dark Souls series is very, very good, bro. Hella replayability. The knockoffs aren't so good. That's the problem. This is a knockoff. Again, it's what you'd expect. Think about who's the puppeteer behind the game itself. Can't think of any original things they've ever produced. That's a different conversation. God damn it! This game is gone, man. That was you. That was your last chance. That was the last chance for the knockoff. Alright. Bro, if I make a piece of art, right, and then you go make a derivative of that art, would it be fair to call that a knockoff? Or let's say I make a pair of Nike trainers, and then you remake the pair of Nike trainers, but you change one thing on the Nike trainer. You get the point, right? Conspicuous? Like, the better question is the inverse of that. That's the better question. Right, from one boss to another boss to another boss. Oh, we're online. We're gonna keep getting summoned out. I don't know actually. What? Ha ha! He's a hit dog. Pack it in, son. Layers, something you can't do without copying. Anyway, it's a different conversation. No, I haven't. Is that mine? Is that... How long has that been there? Oh Lord. Please have mercy on his soul. Cooked already. Yeah, this is why I put the game down. This guy's ridiculously tough. What the? Trapped. Oh, you switched it up. Do you know what? I think in this game as well, like when you get him down to the last bit, he just respawns, like just regenerates this whole bar. What in the Kamehameha wave? I'm dead. I love how fast he gets up in Dark Souls 3. Like compared to Elden Ring, it just takes forever to get up. Alright, we got this. I guess that's all the proof you need there, they're hidden. Explains why you subscribe to religion. Foolishness. Yeah. Does explain your predicament in life, probably. So. When I say humans invented God, it's what's called an explanatory claim. I feel it has explanatory success because it explains the how and the why, and in some instances the when and the where. It also has predictive power for good concepts that we may come across in the future without having to posit the existence of any supernatural entities at all. If you want to know what my actual position on the conversation is, it's this. All known gods are psychological constructs and do not exist independently of the mind. If your god requires belief, imagination or faith to interact with, it is functionally non-existent. Now, I've decided, because it's the weekend, that I'm going to be playing games mostly, so I've stayed on the stream pretty long. I'm probably going to stay on a bit longer. But the main topic, we've gone over the main subject, various different points. If you're actually interested in the main topic, then feel free to engage on that. But if you're just whining about your beliefs and your emotions, then we'll just enjoy watching you whine. Well, other than that, you know what it is. What do I gain from this? Well, the point of these streams is 1, to entertain people, 2, to educate people, and 3, to decolonize people's minds. I feel we touch on all of those points during periods of the stream. So in terms of my goals, they're achieved, they're met by doing what I do. So that's what I get. Look at this circular reasoning. Need some tissue, boy. Woo! Alright, we might need some way to get a stamina buff, or perhaps go back into the game and mine points for a while. Could just be under-leveled. Huh? Why did the camera do that then? Lord of the Cinder. Jacinda. Yeah, he just goes to phase 2. Bullshittery. Bumblehole. What? How did that attack? He didn't even attack me, he just walked past me. That's a... Oh, he's on smoke! Nah! Nah, that's what a boss should be. He's on smoke. Oh, I know I got fried. I don't even think I'm leveled enough for this fight, to be honest. Let's have a look at my stats. We're like a level 108, so we may have just rushed here a little bit too soon. I don't know, these things are taking weight as well. Alright. Wait, have we got the stamina ring on? Boost rolling invincibility at the cost of defense, no wonder. Nah, that's not what you want. I don't think we've even got good rings like that at the minute. Fire clutch ring, I don't think I have it. Man invented God is not overreach. We can literally point to the evidence of us doing it. We could even do it today. There are 3 primary phases of God creation. Phase 1 is assigning agency to celestial and elemental bodies. Phase 2 is abstraction for psychological needs. And phase 3 is anthropomorphizing for societal cohesion. Every single God concept you've ever come across meet all of those criteria, and all God concepts follow an evolutionary trajectory too. It's not an overreach at all, you're just unaware. There's no evidence of your God existing as an independent agent, but there's plenty of evidence of us creating that motherfucker, so think about that. We got the how, we got the why. What evidence have you got for it existing, I ask? Alright, I think we got a better ring set this time, but I'm playing rubbish. I'm yapping too much. Ha! Aha! Ooh, how did I survive that shit? Go on, transform, bro. Yeah, you got me. I don't think I remember fighting that guy. Bro, you're such a beg, Bon. If you want to be here, at least get yourself right, mate. You don't know what level you're playing at. That's why you are there and I'm here. Okay. But that's a different conversation. We got all the cronies out today. It's good. That's like just poking the hornet's nest. See what we get. Alright. Let us go. What? How we winded that up was crazy. Or wowed that up. I mean, in terms of people being into fantasy, like, Abrahamic faiths are purely fantasy based, really. When you're talking about the supernatural elements, all of that is fantasy. None of that is real. So I mean, you're clearly into fantasy too. You just don't want to be called fantasy. People being in giant whales, that's a fantasy. Talking animals and shit, that's fantasy. Putting animals on a boat, that's fantasy. Burning bushes, that's fantasy. Magic staffs, that's fantasy. Like, come on, bro. Curses, blessings, that's fantasy. It's like, ooh, that's magic. It's literally magic, bro. So you're not really in any position to talk. Magic golem spells that create humans, that's fantasy. Bro, this guy's such a beg, man. Get out of here, you goofball. Your existence is fallacious. Be gone. Give me a reason to think anyone made men. I think humans come about through natural processes like every other life form on the planet. Whether it's plant life or, you know, things found in the ocean. All life on the planet comes around natural processes. No agent of intention behind it as far as I'm aware. But why should I think that it's not that? Aren't we? I'm pretty sure we're animals. Pretty sure if you understand evolution, we trace back to similar life forms at a certain period of time. So you could say, yeah, we're more advanced in certain ways, of course. But it doesn't mean we're like alien to the planet. We come about the same way as everything else. Well, some of you might be alien, like the way you behave, but it's a different conversation, you know? Why are they so destructive, I wonder? This deserves deeper analysis. What's behind this European drive? I'm joking. It's a bad run. Ooh, yo, this is a bad run indeed. Oh, he's pulled out the big one. Oh, I forgot you could block that. Come on, at least get him to phase 2, bro. Slapped that bottle out of my hand, bro. He said, what are you healing for? Come here. There we go, phase 2. Oh, the music! A little piano is so dope. Alright, cool. Oh, the kick was serious! You ain't effing about. Oh, he's got me. Alright, this ain't too bad yet. No, it's dead. Ooh! Ooh, man pulled out the lightning! Yeah, but it's vicious circularity. It's different. It's not. So, you know, like people be like, reality is a tautology. You know what you're doing is called vicious circularity. It's way worse. I mean, I don't know about that, bro. Sounds like hermeneutics to me. Gotta decode it. You sure? Does the average believer think that? Or do they take it literally? What? Messing up, boy. Oh, he pulled out a different weapon this time. Oh, I hate that about him. Why is he switching it up like that? Oh, if I could get him against that wall more often, that might actually help. Oh, I accidentally kicked forward. Oh my days, obliteration. Let's go. Oh, damn it. I was trying to get some space there. Oh, he's unfair, bro. Come on, dude. Yeah, good and evil are human concepts, bro. Alright. All known gods are psychological constructs and do not exist independently of the mind. If your god requires belief, imagination, faith to interact with, it is functionally non-existent. Somebody has to devise the concept of your god and impart it to you for you to interact with, or you yourself have to devise the concept of God in order to interact with it. When we say humans invented God, it's what's called an explanatory claim. I feel it has explanatory success because it explains the how and the why, and even has predictive power for God concepts you may come across in the future without having to posit the existence of any supernatural entities at all. As so far as gods existing, I don't think we've ever had any evidence of gods existing as independent agents capable of having any meaningful effect on our reality. And the other question is, depending on how you define God, how does an immaterial spirit produce a physical material reality? These are things that theists have to contend with because they haven't really thought about what they're saying. Boy! This is a bad run. It's too much yapping. I'm talking about things you should listen to. That's what I'm talking about. No, bro, you know what you can plant? Yourself in your seat. Let's get this shit up. Let's get these motherfuckers up out of here. Get your ass up out of here. I'm sorry, chat. I've been so absent-minded. No. Oh, just over 2 hours. I thought it was here much longer than that, so I'll stay a bit longer then. Oh, cool. Get out, boy. Jeez. I just know there's like a hidden gimmick to this boss that I just need to pay attention to. Oh yeah, you can parry this. I doubt I'll be able to get a parry off on him though. Yeah, so the parry, if it's done wrong, it damages me, so it's kind of a waste. Even if it like slightly connects, it's not good enough. God damn it. Yeah, I'm finished. Used too many flasks too soon. I hate they can use two styles at once. It's so annoying. Yes, in the beginning of religion, man created God for sure. Gods didn't start to get, well, gods as we understand them now didn't like start to form until we actually reached a civilization point. But in the beginning, humans assigned agency to elemental things and celestial things, and that was the foundation for all God beliefs that you know of today. But in terms of there being gods as you understand them today, there's never been any proof of that being the case. Behind every god you'll find humans. All gods are fundamentally just abstract concepts. And what do? We evolve these concepts as we evolve our understanding of the world. That's what we do. That's interesting. Serves me right. No. I use the word God as a category definer. Right? So when I say a category definer, I'm talking about supernatural entities or deities. I put it this way, I acknowledge all God concepts equally. Although philosophically you could say if there is a God, there would only be one, because it would be maximally powerful, it would be the best of all possibilities, so there could only be one of them. But in terms of me saying humans invented gods, that's looking at gods for what they are currently, concepts. So you've got different configurations of gods, from monotheism to polytheism to henotheism to animism to dualism to deism. There are different variations of gods within those frameworks. There are elemental gods, there are celestial gods, there are disembodied gods, there are personal gods, there are embodied gods to an extent, right? Like taking on human nature or animal nature. There are various different types of gods, but all god concepts as we understand them today follow an evolutionary trajectory, covering the first three phases I mentioned earlier. Phase 1, assigning agency to elemental and celestial things. Phase 2, abstraction for psychological comforts, right, to give answers where there aren't answers. And Phase 3, anthropomorphizing, to stack Phase 1 and 2 together to create an ultimate type of god that helps mobilize people under what's called ideology. Why is this done? For civilization building, okay? But there is not a god that you could point to that doesn't follow that trajectory. So whatever god you subscribe to today has gone through the evolution conceptually to get to what you think it is today. For instance, if you subscribe to an Abrahamic view of a god, you'd say it's an immaterial spirit, a disembodied mind, also known as the 3O god, omniscient, omnipotent, and omnibenevolent. Okay, that's a specific type of god that's also gone through an evolutionary trajectory. Get the fuck out of here, you dumbass. Excuse my French. So that's why I try not to waste my time on these idiots. But eventually, patience. Excuse my language, by the way. Yeet. Ooh, that was interesting. He's not pulled out his magic yet. Here it comes. Oh, he tricked me there. Ah. Oh, he got me nicely. Damn it. Done. Oh, that was dirty, man. One more. Oh, look at the range on that thing, boy. Missed him. Lightning for lightning, bro. Oh, he fucked me there. Pause. Oh my gosh. Oh my god! The grab! Oh, so it's just gonna be grabs now, okay. Alright, that kind of changes things. Idiot. I just wasted all those bottles for nothing, but that's an interesting learning curve. I don't believe in God because humans invented it, bro. Well, I don't believe in something that's made up. There is no reality of God. The reality of God, if you will, is the concept that people have devised. So what do you even mean? Climb back, ask your wife. She knows all about packing. Something you probably don't. Alright, so why don't you explicate? What do you mean by the reality of God? Oh, because we've got plenty of evidence of it, Cookie. For instance, we know the genealogy of the God of the Bible, how it comes to be, how it ends up getting its power, its name, what it is. So, for instance, that type of God we know doesn't actually exist in the capacity that it's reported to exist. Ah, poor timing. Dead. Yeah, I am able to prove that, but a bit late in the stream. We've walked through it. And as the Christians say, I'd be casting pearls before swine at this point. I don't think you're really here to learn, so it'd be a waste. But yes, it is provable that humans created God. How do we support those kinds of claims? What's called an explanatory claim. Through archaeology, artifacts left behind by humans. Through anthropology, the study of human culture, human history, human rituals, religions. And cognitive science, how the mind works, why we do what we do. Using data points from all three fields, you get what's called an inductive case. Okay? And in terms of that evidence weighed against evidence for God's actually existing, it wins. Okay? Did you not hear what I said? The game was too loud. It's a shame. Not the M dash, that's crazy. To be fair with you, that's not really the domain of the conversation. Malat, personally, the most I can say about human consciousness is that it's just the ability to experience and awareness. Beyond that, I don't know if science or spirituality have an answer to that. But in terms of getting closer to answers about that, your best bet is science. At least perhaps in a field that hasn't been, fully fleshed out yet. But I don't think spirituality is going to get you close to understanding what consciousness is. It's just going to be a lot of what's called quantum mysticism, like pseudo intellectuals and scientists borrowing from actual science, mixing up with their spiritual beliefs. But yeah, your best shot around that is going to be philosophy and science, or philosophy of science, ironically. That's a different conversation. Oh, he's using poison now. This guy's got too many tricks up his sleeve, bruv. Nah, he's a villain. Literally. What the? No, they don't say something similar. That's part of the case that I'm making to you. Historically, there's never been one universal type of God. We've always produced different gods based on the cultural needs of the people that produce it. No one has ever gone out on their native land and discovered the god of another land. The only cohesion, if you will, between God concepts is that there's humans behind them all. And as I said earlier, they follow three main phases of creation. One, assigning agency to things, which are elemental or celestial, which is observational. Two, which is abstraction, which is purely psychological. And three is anthropomorphizing. So they're the only strings that tie God concepts together. Each God concept is unique to the people who produce it. Am I that low below the game? Hopefully you guys could hear me speaking. I do enjoy the sound of this game. Let's go see if we can level up. It's not a coincidence. For instance, right, if you look on your screen, I'll go through it again. So when I say humans invented God, it's what's called an explanatory claim. It explains the how and explains the why, and in some instances the where, the when and the where with specific God configurations and concepts. What you're seeing on your screen is a visual aid or an overview of this concept, right? It's called hyperactive agency detection device. This is the cognitive theory that supports the how our ancestors invented the foundation for gods as we understand them to be today. Okay. I don't want to put the game too low, but I do see that I'm a little bit in the green. So, hyperactive agency detection device, or HAD, is a cognitive theory suggesting humans have an evolved built-in tendency to quickly attribute events and movements to intentional agents, e.g. people, spirits, gods, ghosts, ghouls, etc. It's done to enhance survival even when none exist, acting like a mental smoke detector for threats, which explains the beliefs in supernatural and feelings of being watched. We still have use of this cognitive device today. How it looks today is you're laying in bed, you hear a bump in the night, that's called sensory data. Like instantaneously or subconsciously, you assign agency to that sensory data of the bump in the night. A more rational person would say that bump in the night is a thief breaking in, a family member going to the fridge, the dog doing something silly. A less rational family member or person would say that bump in the night is a spirit, it's a ghost, it's a demon, it's a god. Okay, that's how we make use of it today. Ancestrally, how it was used to form the basis of God beliefs and God concepts is our ancestors would assign agency in the same way you would today to elemental things such as a volcanic eruption, an earthquake, a tsunami, or a lightning storm or thunderstorm, right? Or a celestial event like an eclipse. They would assign agency to that in the same way you assign agency to the sensory data of the bump in the night. Okay, that's where you get your elemental basis for gods. I will show you this in the next slide or whatever. So, HAD is coined by a guy called Justin Barrett. You might know about him from doing other experiments. Right? So, HAD posits that a false positive seeing an agent where there wasn't one was safer in ancestral environments than a false negative missing a real threat. This hypersensitivity leads to anthropomorphizing. Anthropomorphizing means giving something human nature or human features. Leads to anthropomorphizing, seeing purpose in randomness, which is called apophenia, which we was looking at before. Right? Seeing purpose in randomness and forms a foundation for religious beliefs. Right? See if we can get that back up on the screen for you. Right, there you go. That's what apophenia is, right? Apophenia is the human tendency to perceive meaningful patterns and connections or significance in random, unrelated data or coincidences. Coined by Klaus Conrad in 1958. It's a common cognitive experience, often called paternicity, ranging from seeing faces in clouds, pareidolia, to superstitions or conspiracy theories. While often normal, extreme forms of it can indicate psychosis. Right, now anyways, back to hyperactive agency detection device. How our ancestors would have used that, the false positive, is Jim and John, hypothetical people, out foraging. They see a bush rustle. Right, Jim takes off running as soon as he sees the bush rustle. That bush rustling and moving is sensory data. So it's happening subconsciously in Jim's mind. Jim takes off running because he's assigned agency to the bush rustling, while John, is what I said the other name is, just stands there. Why does Jim take off running? Because running from this perceived threat ensures survival of him and his genetics, right? It's evolutionary, okay? That same assigning agency to the bush is what you do when you're laying in bed and you hear the bump in the night. It's what ancestors did to create the foundation for God beliefs. So how does that look? in terms of creating God beliefs in a phase 1 God. So there are 3 phases. In my hypothesis, phase 1 is assigning agency to elemental things and celestial things. Phase 2 is abstraction. These are non-tangible things like war, love, creation, death, magic. And phase 3 is anthropomorphizing, giving things human nature and mirroring human hierarchy amongst God creations. Right? It's done for societal cohesion. But we're talking about phase 1. So how does this look in the phase 1 God creation? An ancestor of ours would experience what me and you today know to be a thunderstorm. That means the sky would blacken, thunder would sound, right? This is what's called awe-inspiring things. Right? It will leave you kind of shocked at the vastness of nature. So they experience the blackening of the sky, maybe rain, the sound of thunder, then maybe they see what me and you describe as lightning. It strikes something, it blows it up, it sets it on fire. What happens in that process is our ancestor assigns agency to that lightning storm, to the event of the lightning. And over time, they build story around it, law around it, to pass it on, to tell other people to be aware of it. And that LORE, law, becomes deified over time. So the lightning now becomes its own entity, or an entity unto itself, having agency, the capacity to act on its own behalf. Right? That lays the foundation for most God beliefs, hence why you'll find storm gods across many regions and different cultures, lightning gods, right? Gods of water, etc., sun gods, right? Because these are observational things. That's phase 1 of God creation. Phase 2, as I said, is abstraction. Right, I know I should be brushing over these things more frequently in the stream, but I was just enjoying playing the game too much and listening to people cry and whine. So much so that people started to exit. But shit, I'm not here to give a full lesson all the time. We do want entertainment too. So on the screen is not an exhaustive list of gods from different places of the world, but I put it on the screen as a visual aid to help explain what I'm saying to you about the 3 phases of God creation. Now, as you can see, your God of the Bible isn't on there, but he is contained within this configuration too. The God of the Bible's genealogy begins with a guy called Yahweh, or a God called Yahweh, a storm god and a warrior god, a phase 1 god and a phase 3 god. But anyways, so Mesopotamia, modern day Iraq, they had a god called Enlil. How can we know this information? From archaeology, finding artifacts left behind by humans, be it carvings, pottery, tapestries, etc., scripts, manuscripts, what do they call them? Papyri and things like that. Right? And through anthropology, study of humans, human culture, human history. Okay, that's how we can have knowledge of gods of previous civilizations. So, Mesopotamians produced a god called Enlil, god of wind, air and storms. This is from the Sumerian culture. Right? Why is he a god of wind, air and storms? He's a phase 1 god, assigning agency to something elemental, right, as I just described, using HAD, hyperactive agency detection device. Egypt, Northern Africa, they produced a god called Ra. He was a sun god and a creator god. A sun god is phase 1, assigning agency to a celestial body, the sun. Right. Creator is phase 2, it's abstract. Creation isn't something tangible you can hold, it's something you can express, but it's primarily conceptual. Right. To create is something that takes place in the mind. Greece, Europe, Zeus, king of the gods, god of sky and thunder. Being a king of a god is directly anthropomorphic. Where do you find kings? In an organizational structure amongst humans called monarchies, right? That directly mirrors human society. Okay, the thunder and the sky is phase 1, assigning agency. So the king of gods is a phase 3 anthropomorphic feature, right? Norse, Scandinavia, Odin, god of wisdom, war, death and magic. Right? Odin has many phase 2 features, which are abstraction or abstract features. Okay. That being said, without going through the whole list, right, in simple terms, humans have produced different god concepts across different regions and different times. There's never been one universal idea of what a god is and what a god should entail. Humans produce concepts of gods and they evolve the concepts of gods as they go along. All god concepts are transmitted primarily through language and through artifacts. Okay. If you had to explain this to a child, No one in human history has ever gone out onto their native land and discovered the god of another land. So, for instance, the Celtics, modern day Britain, Western Europe, they wouldn't have gone out onto the British Isles and discovered Yahweh, the god of the Israelites, over in the Levant. They would have produced a god called Brigid, god of smithing, poetry and healing, hyper-specific to the cultural needs of the people of that time. Right? Just as Yahweh was produced by the Israelites, hyper-specific to the needs of the culture of that time. A storm god, a warrior god, okay? Just like Elohim was produced by the Canaanites, okay? Humans are the ones who conceptualize and devise God concepts primarily, right? And they pass them on through language and through artifacts. And they evolve as we evolve. In terms of artifacts, there are plenty of Mesopotamian and Sumerian artifacts that support the foundation for what you find in the Bible, the Old Testament, right? Being the grounding for the New Testament. So when Trinitarians come on the scene and they claim Jesus to be in a triune configuration with Yahweh, God the Father and the Holy Spirit, they're basing off the canon that comes from the Abrahamics, or the Abraham, God of Abraham, right? But Abraham's ancestors are the Sumerians, Mesopotamians. What you're looking at is called the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest known texts on the planet from the civilization of the Mesopotamia. This helps lay the foundation for various things found in the Old Testament, along with what's called the Ark Tablet and the Creation Tablet, which I'll show you a picture of. But in terms of artifacts, we've got plenty of them going back for a long time, and it just demonstrates under each God concept, you look under any rock, you will find humans behind it for various different reasons. So this is called the Ark Tablet. It tells the first version of what you know to be Noah's Ark, but it's not actually about Noah, ironically. But yeah, Creation Tablet, where's that? So simply put, right, there is plenty of evidence of humans creating gods and god concepts and the religions that accompany them, whereas there is very little to no evidence of gods existing independently of humans. That's the Creationist Tablet. Lays the foundation for what's found in Genesis. Yeah. But you're entitled to believe whatever the hell you want to believe, but as I said, if I tell you humans invented God, it's what's called an explanatory claim. And it has explanatory success because it explains the how, the why, and in some instances the when and the where. It also has predictive power because it accounts for God concepts and God beliefs that you may encounter in the future without having to posit the existence of any supernatural entities at all. For the guys on the vertical stream, you guys missed all of the visual aids because they're not showing on that screen, unfortunately. You just have to hear what I'm saying. But yes, there's plenty of evidence of humans inventing gods. In fact, if you think about what God is known to be today, it follows an evolutionary trajectory from phase 1, elemental gods, celestial gods, to phase 2, abstraction, to phase 3, anthropomorphizing. And then what happens is we produce ideas found in philosophy. Ideas found in philosophy added to theology are what's called post hoc rationalization. So when people produce new ideas and new ways of thinking about gods and spirits and souls, that gets added into the canon. It's what's called a doctrine, right? For instance, something like the immortal soul wasn't primarily part of Christianity or Judaism. It's something that was developed by I'm about to call him Plato, and it was added in afterwards. It was like, that's a good idea. Also, the idea of the greater good or the good was added in via Plato. Various other philosophers have been theologians simultaneously and contributed ideas to religion, which help buttress and transform and evolve concepts of God. It's how the God of the Bible goes from being a simple storm warrior God into being God the Father, into being the triune spirit, into being the creator God, into being omniscient, omnipotent, omnibenevolent, disembodied mind, right? Immaterial spirit. It's an evolutionary trajectory of God creations that gets you to what your view of God is today. But as so far as that God actually existing in the capacity reported, there is no evidence of that. But there's significant evidence of humans doing the creation process of the God. Alright, hopefully that's helpful. The Shroud of Turin is not a it's not even close to a proof, and it's not even thought to be an actual religious artifact. It's thought to be an artistic creation. So again, the Jesus as spoken about in the New Testament, there's no reason to think that guy actually existed that way. There's Jesus as spoken about that people believe to be God or the Son of God, and then there's a guy called Yeshua, which is just like a Bronze Age or like Iron Age Judaic priest. Okay, no magic, no supernatural birth, no resurrection, just a guy. There we go. The Jesus of the New Testament is largely myth. Don't get me wrong, there's some pragmatic uses for the God, for Jesus being used as a God, and the teachings that is assigned or ascribed to Jesus. There are lots of pragmatic uses for that, but the truth of that actual character is not there to be found. Okay, as I said, being charitable, we could tell you, yeah, it's possible that Yeshua is who they built the story around, but actual Jesus, has what most people walk around thinking of, isn't actually a guy. It's largely different myths cobbled together. But yeah. I mean, I don't take I'll discuss it in a minute. Right, let's just play this with me. But yeah, I don't take exclusively religious artifacts and doctrines or testimonies to be proofs of God. I think if you're discussing God, it should transcend culture and religion. Right? You're talking about an all-powerful entity, ultimately, not just a possession of one religion or one people. So those things should be considered when you're talking about proofs of God. It must transcend religion and culture. But that's just my view. Sheesh. Oh, he's quick, isn't he? I'm dead. So I feel like there's certain criteria you need to be able to meet, like a certain level at least, in order to say you're providing a proof of God. So I'll state it like this first, right? To be a believer is to be in a catch-22. The more you define God, the less likely it is to exist based on the attributes you assign to it, what would be expected from those attributes. And the less you define God, the more synonymous it is with non-existent. Right? So on that spectrum, there are two schools of thought at both extremes. On the end of it being synonymous with non-existence, you've got your philosophical types of gods. Right? And on the end of it being highly defined, you've got your biblical type of gods. Okay? So your biblical type of gods are highly defined because in the text themselves, they assign events and attributes to the gods. So they'll say it's omniscient, it's omnipotent, it has a son, sometimes it's a man, it intervenes in people's lives. These are highly specific things. That does what's called reducing the probability space. So that means it's less likely to exist in that capacity, right, when you're looking at gods as a whole. And on the other end, on the philosophical end, you've got gods that function as metaphysical frameworks, things like pantheism, right? So if you were actually trying to prove your God exists, there's only two ends of that spectrum that you can exist in. On the furthest end of that spectrum, philosophically, what your type of proof would be a really tight logical syllogism, right, or some kind of proof. I wouldn't say mathematical per se, but logic kind of axioms and all that. Anyway, sorry, it's jargon that you don't really need to know about, right? But if you were trying to give a proof from a philosophical point of view, it would be exactly that. It would be some really tight syllogism that explains your thesis, if you will, right? And on the biblical end, you'd be looking for some empirical data. Why would you be looking for empirical data on the biblical end? Because you've described a hyper-specific God that interacts with our physical world, right? So given that spectrum, depending on what type of God you believe in, whether you're somewhere in the middle or on the far ends of that, you know what kind of proof you'll be looking for. So, for an empirical type of proof of God, there's like a minimum criteria it needs to meet. One of those criteria is, like I said earlier on, it needs to be able to transcend a specific religion and a specific culture. Right? It needs to be mind independent. That means it can't just occur in your mind like a personal private testimony. It needs to be measurable. Right? And there's something else I forgot. Mind independent, transcend cultures, and measurable, and it needs to defeat all other competing hypotheses. Right? So what would it look like? This is just an example. I'm not telling you exactly what kind of proof I would need for God. I'm just giving you a hypothetical example. Yeah. So let's say a god level entity should, we imagine anyway, based on human hubris, we imagine it should have the capability to, let's say, psychically broadcast a message to all peoples in whatever language they understand. This is all hypothetical, of course, right? So it would need to be able to broadcast a message to all peoples that would transcend religions and cultures. Right? No one's private little cult, no one's private religion, no one's private race. Okay, it would need to be able to make a hyper-specific prediction for a certain period in the future. And this is hypothetical, remember, I'm not saying actual proofs. It would have to be something on the galactic level of being able to tweak the gravitational constants by, like, let's say 15% or 3% for a certain period of time at a certain date, which would allow for measurement, which would allow for competing hypothesis, right? Which would allow for mind independent understanding and studying, put it that way, right? That's just a really vague example of the type of shit you'd be looking for as a proof on the empirical end. But on the other end, on the super philosophical end, all you need is a really solid syllogism that supports your proof that no one else can just come and dismantle, right? That kind of thing. And truthfully, most God debate in this day and age exists primarily in the realm of philosophy, because there isn't empirical evidence for gods. Right? They just fundamentally exist in that philosophical realms, and hence you get teleological argument, ontological argument, cosmological argument. These arguments all exist in the realm of philosophy, or the philosophy of religion. Okay. So now you know, if you actually want to be able to say your God exists, where you need to start looking. Hopefully, if you was listening. Kit Kats, who are you, bro? Chances of me owing anybody a fiver in this life is quite unlikely. But sure, if you think so. The theory I provided. I don't know if I provided a theory, right? You're talking about explanatory claim. It definitely fulfills a certain criteria, specifically empirical evidence. So we've got artifacts. We've got artifacts which come from archaeology. You've got anthropology, copious amounts of data of human cultures and religions, and you've got cognitive science, right? How the mind actually functions. You've also got psychoanalysis intertwined into that. Right? So that's a lot of evidence in terms of an inductive case. So I'm not quite sure what you're saying. Each of those three branches you can go and look into around the topic of gods or supernatural entities, and you'll see what I'm saying. I mean, in a zombie apocalypse, you could argue that we already exist in a zombie apocalypse when you think about how actual other humans are walking around on Earth currently. We already exist in a zombie apocalypse. Ironically. You didn't hear that from me. Alright, so what did I need to do? I got a cold. So there was something about a DLC that I was supposed to go and like figure out, but I don't know how to get into it. Haha, my old stomping ground. No, I think all of those arguments about design are what's called anthropocentric points of view. Right? So they center around human life in the first place. If you're talking to someone who's telling you humans invented God, and the third phase of God creation is anthropomorphizing, the ability to be a designer and express intelligent design is something anthropomorphic. Okay? So, from that point of view, I've got no reason to think your God exists in that capacity anyway, or is capable of designing or creating anything. That's just part of the concept or the conceptual framework of the God, that it does those things, but it's not proof that it does it. No, that's what you're presenting is a false dichotomy. You're saying it's either designed or it's accident. No, there's no reason to accept that. It's very simplistic. No. Again, you're using a very simplistic view of the world. Right? You're using what's called the watchmaker's analogy. Why doesn't the watchmaker's analogy work for explaining the universe? Simply this, right? You can presuppose humans exist. Check, they do, right? You can presuppose humans can organize materials to create things. Check, they do. You can also presuppose that watches exist based on background data of watches existing. Check, they do. So to say that you wouldn't think a watch came from anywhere other than a watchmaker makes sense. But now, can we presuppose gods exist? No, we can't. Do we know the nature of gods in general? No, we don't. Do we know the mechanisms in which gods use to produce things? No, we don't, right? So the watchmaker's analogy doesn't pass on to explaining the natural world as we find it. Okay? So that's why it doesn't work. Hopefully that makes sense. I mean, I was using like a really makeshift analogy the other day about the light bulb, right? So, say you're a parent, right, and your child walks in the room and he says, "Daddy, how does the light work? Where does the light come from?" And you say to your child, "Oh, God did it. God created the light," right? So, say your child entertains your answer. He's going to ask you first, "What is a God? What does a God do?" Right? Now, depending on your conceptual understanding of God, you may be able to give a robust answer or a very simplified answer. But if we just take the standard understanding of what a God is, an immaterial spirit is the most standard answer of what a God is, right? A deity, entity of some form. So you explain that to the child. God is an entity. God is an immaterial spirit, right? So the child entertains that answer. He says, "Alright, so Daddy, how does God create the light then?" Now you're going to have to explain how an immaterial spirit produces a physical reality, e.g. the light bulb. Right? If you don't understand the mechanisms in which a God operates, you can't actually do that. So what you would be left to tell the child is, God works in mysterious ways. So fundamentally, you fail to explain where the light comes from, how it's made, or how it functions. In another way of stating that analogy, you've got an Occam's razor situation. So you're trying to explain a natural phenomenon, the light. Right? What is the light? It's something natural, it exists. But what are you doing to explain the natural phenomenon? You're using a supernatural entity to explain the natural phenomenon. By invoking a supernatural entity to explain a natural phenomenon, you fail to understand the actual natural phenomenon itself, which is the light. You don't study what the light is, how it functions, where it actually comes from. You posit that what's responsible for the light is a supernatural entity. But the problem with supernatural entities is we don't know what they are, how they function, or where they come from either. Okay? So that is in another way what you've done there, right? You're trying to explain a natural phenomenon with a supernatural entity. You know nothing about the supernatural entity, and now you know even less about the natural phenomenon by using a supernatural entity to explain it. Sometimes no answer is the best answer. You should be willing to say "I don't know" until further information. Simply filling a hole it's not good enough, right? It doesn't suffice at a certain level of understanding. If anything, it creates more problems, as I just explained. So It's like there's this other view that a lot of like religious people have, that I've given an answer, I've offered an answer even though the answer is incorrect. Therefore, if you don't offer an answer, then my answer is right by default. No, that's foolish. That's fallacious thinking. There's no reason to think that. If we both know your answer is wrong, I don't need to offer an alternative to understand your answer is wrong. Okay? The wiser thing would be to say, I'm abstaining from giving an answer because I don't know. Just simply throwing answers out there and saying, well, since no one else has given an answer, it must be this, is stupid. Anyways, but it's not just that as well. It's done for like it's also a debate tactic in a way, but it's really it's done from an incredulous place. Right? It's like the old story of the guy who wants the tallest building in town. So instead of building his building taller, he breaks everyone else's building down to make his appear taller. It's the same way a lot of these people function in conversations. Also, what do you believe then? What do you think happens? It doesn't matter what I think happens. It doesn't matter what I believe. You've offered up something, and now because you've offered something, it's open to critique. Okay, but looking for something to compare your your offering with isn't going to make your offering any more valid. This is what these people do. But it's understandable because they operate from a place of cognitive dissonance, ultimately. So it's what should be expected. Absolutely, Kojak, that's correct, right? But it's not as profound as you think. The minute someone invented the concept of a god, they invented the negation of belief in that concept, which is atheism. Whether the god concept, the initial god concept, was like robust or trash, the minute they invented it, they created the opposite of it, like the lack of belief in it. So anyone that's ever been born in human history since the invention of gods was born an atheist. It's just how that goes. It's not really profound. It's just basic. Like back in the not back in the day, let's say last year at some point, we had a stream where we was playing Zelda, and we was coming up with god concepts, and I came up with a god concept called Mango Man. Right, we made up a whole little silly backstory for the god, which is Mango Man, how Mango Man died for your seeds and all this kind of interesting stuff. It was a joke as an analogy. But the minute we devised the god Mango Man, we devised the negation of belief in Mango Man. Okay? A silly, ridiculous type of god, just like a spaghetti monster, ridiculous type of god. But the minute you devise it, right, you create the disbelief in it too. So it doesn't matter what level of what phase of concept your god is. As I described earlier on, the 3 phases: assigning agency to elemental and celestial things. Phase 2, abstraction. Phase 3, anthropomorphizing. Doesn't matter what level your god sits at, the minute you devise it, you also create the negation of belief in that. So, and in terms of how people function in atheism today, it's a spectrum, but primarily the definition is the disbelief in God or gods. Right? So in that spectrum of atheism, you get what's called hard atheism, right? Where people say there is no God, there never was a God, there never will be a God. And on the other end of that, you get what's called agnostic atheism. Is I don't know if there are gods out there, but I don't believe in the ones that have been presented to me. So there are various positions that you could take in atheism. Like even people who have tried to start what you would call humanist types of religion. So I'm still reading a book called 7 Types of Atheism. It's kind of like a polemic against atheism primarily. This guy is writing against atheism. But in that book, he describes some of the things that people consider to be the foundation of atheist views, right? So you've got humanist ideas in there, science-based ideas in there, philosophy ideas in there. But there are various different, in terms of atheism as we understand it in the modern world, there are various different positions you could take. But definitionally, right, it literally just means the disbelief in God or gods. So people can add and take away views from that. For instance, you could be an atheist that believes in souls. You could be an atheist that believes in afterlives. Right? You could be an atheist that believes in, like, I don't know, animism or something. So these are things that you should also kind of consider when you're saying what you're saying. Intellectually honest and read. The irony, bro. No, there will always be different concepts of God, right? We could be within the same religious framework and have like the same base fundamental understanding of what God is, but because God is primarily psychological, it will show up different based on the person interacting with the concept. Right? That is what it means. Gods are abstract concepts. What's up, Matthew? It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter which type of God you subscribe to. You could transmit your concept of God to someone else via language, via artifact, and they will still have a different perception of it, even if it were to be a real entity. Do you know, like, there's a saying, there's one you, but in the world there are many different versions of you walking around in different people's minds. To John, you're sweet. To Jane, you're a dickhead, right? There are many different versions of you walking around in other people's minds, just as there are many different versions of gods walking around in other people's minds. Right? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. You could subscribe to the same God, but view it completely different, because it's primarily psychological. But that's an oversimplification of what I'm trying to explain to you. Gods are what's considered abstract concepts. Maths and logic are also considered abstract concepts, but wherever the language of mathematics and logic is understood, the answers will be universal. God concepts are not universal like maths and logic. They're what's called a different category. Right? The category that gods would exist in terms of abstract concepts would be fictional characters. For 200 minutes, big up to you, Matthew. Hey, thanks for the rose, meow. Yeah, I am overstaying on streams this weekend because I just want to get some game time in. It's possible. There's no way to know what the inner world of anybody. To be honest, you could have the exact same anatomy as me, and I wouldn't be able to be sure about the inner workings of your mind. Right? So, in terms of Neanderthals, they could have had an inner mind. Right? They could have been capable of abstraction, but it's whether I could demonstrate that or not. The only way I could demonstrate that would be based on the artifacts they leave behind. Do you know? But different members in the hominidae family have left references to different levels of intelligence in terms of creating tools and stuff like that. So it's hard to say. For instance, right, let me show you something. God concepts vary like wildly, right, in terms of human history. But how do we know about this information? It's from artifacts and from anthropology. So let me just oh wait, you're on the wrong stream, bro. Dichotic or dichotic, right? Dichotic. You need to come to the Culture Crack YouTube channel or the Set West 10 TikTok, because I'm putting pictures up on the screen that you can't see there. So it'd be a waste if you miss it, because this is specifically to you. So hurry up. What you're looking at on the screen is called the Lion Man figurine. It was discovered in some Germanic mountains. I can't remember what years, like maybe 50s or something like that. Right? You can just look up the article in the British Museum website and all that. But it's thought to be between 35,000 to 40,000 BCE. Okay, I think it's called the Paleolithic era. So in terms of like spiritual figurines or supernatural ideas, like people have been having them for a long time. Right? But obviously the members that are producing these things are all within the hominid family tree. So I don't know how you would represent the belief in gods outside of the hominid family tree. What kind of artifacts would you be looking for? What kind of evidences would you need? Okay, so how does what work? How did we invent God? Using our minds. That's how we did it. By using our minds, bro. I know it's hard to believe. Hey, Meow, thank you for the gifts. Appreciate that. Bro. There's a George Carlin joke about people praying for things. Like, why should your prayer be considered in the divine plan? It's like, you can pray all you want. But if, say, God does exist, why should he do anything because you want him to? So, it's just that's the weird shit. Now, I'm aware, like, on like a human level, there are psychological benefits to the idea of prayer. Basically, that you're just expressing your thoughts, like in a concentrated way, akin to meditation. Even though meditation is something that's like highly misconstrued in modern times, like in the Western world, anyways. There are psychological benefits to prayer because it is a concentration of your internal mind or your internal thoughts. But it doesn't mean you're actually talking to anything outside of yourself. And in terms of like the styles of prayer, they go back to rituals. So rituals is literally just how you do a group of things, when and where you do the things. Okay. Again, going back to a lecture by Robert Sapolsky on the psychology of religion, a lot of the rituals that we find in modern religions trace back to a sort of neurodivergence. So the type of prayer that you engage in likely is a ritual passed down from people who had that neurodivergence. So say your type of prayer entails some kind of bending down or clasping of hands or, very specific physical acts, that entails ritual. Ritual paired with concentration can have psychological benefits, just like playing a game consistently could be considered a ritual, but playing the game in the mechanisms of the game can have psychological benefits too. But it doesn't mean there's anything supernatural happening there. So, something to think about. I think, to be fair, 80 blank, I think nowadays there are creationists that subscribe to evolution too. So I don't think the two are adverse to each other. But, yeah. This is the problem, because you're discussing things that are really primarily metaphysical. You're just like shoehorning things in from science, but you're not really accounting for how it's looked at in science. That's true, King. That is true. I am Metatron. Why would I get attacked by hidden realities? Would it be the same reality? Anyways. What do I believe about what? If you're asking me about religious things, I don't have any religious beliefs. So there's no reason to have religious beliefs. At least like theological religious beliefs. I mean, that's kind of not true. God's favorite. They're actually old timers in terms of atheist space now. What you're pointing to is like what was called new religion and new atheism in the early 2000s. There are so many like brilliant thinkers that inhabit the atheist space now that way surpass Dawkins, Hitchens, all of those people. Sagan even though. I don't know if it'd be fair to say Carl Sagan is really like within that kind of sphere. Carl Sagan is more like a scientist dude. But there are plenty of brilliant thinkers in the atheist spaces nowadays that far surpass those guys. So. Alright, so what does it mean to walk in the light? What does that even mean? I don't want to say they're like vague platitudes, but you're just saying stuff. But that doesn't really mean anything. Hey, Graham Oppie, now that's a thinker right there. But yeah, so you're aware. You're aware then. So that's cool. I mean, when you think about it though, God's favourite, right? The way people are approached in these conversations are rarely actually genuine conversations. It's usually an attack on one side or the other. So people are immediately in a defensive position. So in that kind of like ideological combat, it makes sense to be evasive. Why would you like concede or like yield to your opponent's tactics? You wouldn't want to do that, would you? But if you was just having a general conversation and just expressing ideas, then yeah, there's no reason not to. But you know, like I know, if you inhabit those spaces, people don't have a genuine conversation. They're always looking for a gotcha. They're always trying to make a clip. They always think that they're more intellectually superior than they are. So it's a game of egos. Yeah, well, I guess there's no way to know for certain what's out there, King. But in terms of me saying humans invented God, I think that's something that's supportable. But yeah, as I've said before, right, there could be something out there that we describe as a God, but I wouldn't call it a God because it would be an unknown currently. And to call it a God is to say it's a known based on like, you know, things we assign to gods currently. So there could be something out there, but I personally wouldn't call it a God. I don't know how you could say that for certain. Annalie, not sure how to pronounce your name. I don't know how you could say that for certain. And again, there's that problem as well. If there is a God that is ultimately all powerful and has a will, then your individual will can never overpower its will. So, is there any point in praying at that point? For at least the way you're describing it. So, would there be any point? The fact that you're calling it a he, that's the problem, G. That's exactly what I'm saying. That is the problem. Okay. You're not examining what's there to be found. You're saying, I already have this preconceived notion about reality, and it's my belief. So therefore, I'm trying to bend reality to fit my belief, rather than just observing what can be found in reality. And that is the problem. For instance, just like consistently killing these knights on these steps is a ritual. it's a common ritual just to get points, right? But it put you in a flow state for other things. So the same can be said of other like ritualistic practices, I guess. That is vicious circularity. Right? So, anyways, alright. Can we just get back to the goofy stuff? Let's just go back to the goofy stuff, right? Just go back to throwing slurs at me. It's getting too deep. Alright, have we got enough? Wait, let's see. Oh, you've got more than enough. Yeah, Metatron, none of that stuff makes sense to me, right? That is apophenia, exactly what you're describing. It's just a bunch of unrelated stuff. What's up, Natalie? Give me a reason to think humans were invented.
Ashen one, link the fire. For the lords of cinder, for the ashen prisoners, for all those
That's totally fine, to be fair. I've hardly even been on myself. Nose bloody running. Hey, thanks for the gifts. To be fair, I don't know God's favourite. I really don't know, right? I'm not being a philosopher. I'm super limited in my understanding anyways. But I do not know. I think we're like the point of view you're arguing, if you are arguing for God's existence, is way more philosophical than a religious kind of space. As I said earlier on, there's a spectrum of God beliefs and God concepts. On one end, you've got your highly defined gods, which are primarily religious gods, which are very unlikely to exist in that capacity. And on the other end, you've got philosophical frameworks for gods, which are like functionally non-existent. Really, they don't interact with reality in that way. Based on the things you're saying, you're more arguing from a philosophical point of view than a religious point of view, and to me, it's not a hard ceiling. It's just I don't know enough. So.
Very well. Then touch the darkness within thee. Take nourishment from these subtle.
Yeah, I do hear myself. It's the only thing I can hear. I'm reading everything else. Yeah, but that's the thing, right? You could say that, but again, how are you defining spirits and souls in the first place? What reason do I have to think they actually exist? So of course, like, it's going to be difficult to measure something that is ill-defined in the first place, or ill-defined on purpose, like vague for a reason. Yeah, in a way, God's right. And again, worldviews is kind of vague as well. It's like Christian terminology. What does that even mean? What the fuck is a worldview? But I think I understand what you're saying. Humans definitely invented the devil, bro. They invented the devil well after inventing gods. Bro, you won't get banished unless you're being disrespectful, racist, or spewing hatred, bro. Just being like, I can take a certain level of trolling, but you're not just gonna get kicked out because you have a different point of view. There'd be no point in doing this otherwise, right? Just know the limits. If you wouldn't say that to me in real life, don't say it on the internet. It's quite simple, you know. Well, I mean, if you think you could say it in real life, that's a different conversation. But you know. Just be civil and I'll be civil. I'm not just going to ban you because you think something different. It just depends on your behaviour. The laziest, Sozzy. Like, the way your avatar looks is the way I operate. Sup, Cup? Yeah, it's DS3. Don't know how much longer I'm staying on though. I'm definitely not doing PvP. Which one is it? I mean, we could invent a god right now, right? We could operate how Islam operated 650 years after Christianity, how Christianity operated 1500 years after Judaism. Literally just collect all the available information from theology and philosophy and put together a new concept of God that accounts for all of the pitfalls that the current ones have. So we could. But in my hypothesis, all god creations follow three primary phases. Phase 1 is assigning agency to celestial and elemental features or bodies. Phase 2 is abstraction. And phase 3 is anthropomorphizing. All god concepts follow that in some format. But yeah, we could come up with a better god than the god you subscribe to currently. That's literally the point of religions getting patched. Like, you know, like how software gets patched over time when developers find issues in it. Religion and God concepts get patched too, and they get updated. It's what's called post hoc rationalizations. Anyways. Where was that? It's here. Okay, cool. I'm just going to do this a couple more times and I'm going to be out. My parents created me. Obviously, I don't know about you, but I'm the product of coitus. Don't know what you are, where you're from, but me personally, my parents created me. Alright, it is. No, I think money was in existence by the time the Bible was talking about buying and selling things, bro. It definitely was. Bible's, well, it depends on what part of the Bible you're talking about. But Bible is kind of fairly recent human history, you know. Although it talks about it as if it's actual historical events, which it's not. It's fairly recent in terms of civilizations. Indus Valley was doing this thing, Mesopotamia was doing this thing, Egypt was doing this thing, Greeks just getting off the ground. So the world was in motion, bro, already. Well, can't really say the Greek was just getting off the ground. Greek was already significantly off the ground. It's more like the Roman Empire getting off the ground. I just say that to mention there are clearly old civilizations before the Bible was written. Cheater. Oh, how could he parry while he was down? That isn't even possible. Computer was like, no, this is too easy for you. How in the world could he parry while he was down? Oh, he tricked me. Silly delay. I'm dead. Punk? Right. Bring in the pianos! Oh! Oh. It's like a throwback to Dark Souls 1. Damn it! Only thing is, the final boss in Dark Souls 1 was way easy to beat. Holy shit! Didn't expect that. Excuse my French. I thought he aimed up a bit high. If we can find a way to get a little bit stronger, I think we'll be able to beat this guy. Ooh-wee. Oh no! I'm cooked. Too close. Further than we've come before, man. I think you can prove some types of gods absolutely do not exist. Right? If they are like, if the concept of them entails contradictions, then you can be sure they don't exist. No, of course you can define God. Like, gods are comprehensible, right? Think about it like this. Gods are containers, right? Empty containers, abstract concepts that you fill with other abstract concepts in order for them to be meaningful in any way. Like, gods, like, they're not like saturated concepts. They're not like an orange which has like primary and secondary features and characteristics. Gods are like primarily empty containers filled with concepts that humans assign to them. So for instance, say your God is omniscient. You don't need to be able to experience omniscience to comprehend what it is. It's a concept thought of by humans already. So we know what the word itself entails. So when we add that to another word, we know what that should entail too. But so far as experiencing the actual thing itself, there's no evidence of God's being that way. So, yes. How, bro? I deserve that shit. Oh my gosh. I'm trapped like a motherfucker. Can't even see him! Oh, there he is. I wonder if I could get a parry on this guy. How, bro? Computer's glitchy in this game, bro. Yep. Got me up out of here. Have you ever thought about the fact that mud is literally just dead life? All soil, all earth is literally just like dead matter. So it comes from something that was once living. Have you ever thought about that? Strange, isn't it? So we're just piles and piles of dead stuff. I mean, doesn't sound like a very precise creation. It's like almost seems accidental. Bro, you do not want to talk about low IQ and God beliefs, bro. It's well studied that religious belief follows very low IQ. Right? Please save yourself the shame. Consider myself highly intelligent, but I also don't consider myself religious. So you should stop by your head. It's very well studied. The more the more educated you are, the less religious you are. The less you're likely to believe in gods and mythologies and all those kinds of things. The less educated you are, the more likely you are to be religious. I think we did have a source for that, but it's well studied, unfortunately, man. There you go. Typical Christians projecting themselves onto the world. I'm gonna assume you're a Christian. Let's call you an Abrahamite. Abrahamic. Abrahamic. I don't mind the insult here and there, but the projection's crazy. Here's a little funny clipping. Can't remember you could probably find the full article somewhere on the internet. It is well established that religiosity correlates inversely with intelligence. And you don't, and you don't, and you don't. But that doesn't mean all religious people are stupid, though. No one would say something like that, right? Yeah, them Abrahamics will take you right to sleep. Get rocked to sleep by them Abrahamics. That's actually pretty dope. Them Abrahamics. Anyways. It's all fun and games, bro. No one hates anyone here. Yeah, also, where do you find the most religiosity? Amongst the poor and disenfranchised. So I don't know what kind of argument you're trying to make. Either way you twist it, you still look like an idiot. Do you know who makes use of religion the most? People who create the power structures to keep you that way. That's why you're in a religion in the first place. Poke. Anyways, right, I apologise. It wasn't necessary to go that far. Ooh. Keep doing magic. Damn it, switched up. Oh, damn it. That movement pattern is so weird. Guy's a monster. Oh, how did that catch me? He's not the worst Souls boss I've ever fought, but he's definitely bad. Ah, shit. Damn it! Fuck. I bet he's got a third phase as well. That would kill it. It's like, oh yeah. You thought that was bad. Check this out. So it's like 3. Damn you! I was so close that time. So close that time. What's up, Drop? No, not really, no. What makes you think that, right? You can definitely choose a god you want to believe in. You can like literally pick and choose attributes of the god you subscribe to, and apparently its laws and all of that. You can just pick whatever you want. It's how humans have been doing it for ages. I'm kind of hungry. I think that's why I'm playing so bad. You don't realize the danger you're in. I said I'm hungry. Let's go. I'm trapped. Jeez, man battered me, boy. Ooh. Where can I get more flasks from? He's going for the poison. Oh no, fireball. Saying that, I've not used any buffs yet either. So it's a 1. No, I'm badly timing this. Oh Lord. He got. Oh my god. I'm dead as hell. Bad run. Yeah, it's DS3. I'm hungry, man. I can't even think straight. So, what gives you the authority to be able to say that this goo? It's got ultra poked. You could say that. Let's have some water. Lord Half Mercy, you don't realise how crazy you sound. That is a problem when you're embedded in a cult. It's very difficult to tell people that are in a cult that they're in a cult. To them, this kind of behaviour, this kind of language is super normal, like normalised. You don't see any problem with what you're saying at all. It's insanity. Not my problem. I'm joking. I do want to help as much people escape the cultic side of religion as possible, because it is rife. I think that could be like an extra side effect of doing this kind of stuff. Just maybe nudging people towards that kind of door. Yeah, you don't have to be raised in a cult to be a cult. Like, most cults are full of adult people who join for various different reasons. But the problem is, religion does primarily spread by indoctrinating children, so that's very well spotted. But yeah, you don't have to be indoctrinated as a child to be in a cult, bro. Do you know, as they say, the converts are usually the worst ones. They want to be able to prove themselves. They want to tell all of the practitioners that they're doing it wrong. So yeah, it's the same shit. Oh, there's a big sign on the TV. Man, I'm hungry. It's like 2 o'clock. Did the clocks go back last night, or are they going back tonight? Or are they going forward? I think they're going forward, don't they? Let's have a look. Yeah, I think it's tonight. Bumbleholes. Robbing us of time, bro. British government take the piss. I told you lot where that came from, innit? Defence of the Realm Act. Pushing time forward. Taking the piss, bro. They're literally robbing us of an hour. Alright, so as I said before, Lord, maybe you don't know, but there's no reason for me to take your personal, private testimony as reality. Oh, it happened this morning? Well, I wondered, like, my alarm this morning is like typically 6, right? And it was way darker this morning than it usually is, so it could have been. It says on the last Sunday of March, so I don't know if that technically counts. Whether that's a Saturday night or a Sunday morning, I'm not really sure. I don't know, I think this might be the British summertime push forward. One of them's not. The British summertime clock change was literally about manufacturing and war. But the other one's not. I often get mixed up. Right, someone's personal testimony isn't a proof of our shared reality. To be fair, your personal testimony may not even be a proof of your own experience, right? There's a thing that is quite well studied called implanted memories, right, or false memories, where people have a false memory of an event or a circumstance that they view completely different to how it actually occurred. Even your own testimony isn't necessarily a proof of the event that you claim took place. Okay, people misremember, people confuse facts. These kinds of things always happen. So when you're talking about evidences of like supernatural things, they need to be mind independent. Someone needs to be able to come and intersubjectively verify the thing you're pointing at took place, right? So it was last night then? Nah, that makes sense then why it was dark this morning. But yeah, so... Don't get me wrong, in certain circumstances when we're accounting for things that we can all verify exist, then testimonies should suffice. But when you start talking about things that don't match reality, you know, supernatural things, extraterrestrial things, you know, then testimony is not enough. You know, it's not even close to enough. Is it? So yeah, it went forward, you're right. I don't know then, maybe it was just dark for no reason. it hasn't been dark this past week, and I don't know, I'm just probably discombobulated. It was compiled by a bunch of different people writing books based off other things that they heard, right? Specifically, the New Testament is literally devised by empire. The Old Testament is more like a collation of different stories of the ancestors of the Israelites and the journeys of the Israelites. So things like Genesis, things like Noah's Ark, those things predate the Israelites. They are passed down to the Babylonians and then to the Israelites. But yes, these things were concerted efforts put together by men. That's how your Bible comes about. Don't get me wrong, it's possible extraterrestrials could exist, but in terms of matching them to what we find in reality, there's just not enough evidence of that. Right? Bro, that's your belief. You can't even demonstrate what a Holy Spirit is. Okay, what if you find out if it was all collusion? It was just a political move to control people. Are you still going to say it's the Holy Spirit? Then again, you're probably not even capable of entertaining that contradictory thought. So it's a waste. I think my character is just under-leveled for this guy. Think of a few more levels we could beat him. There might even be some bosses I've missed in the meantime. See? That's what I'm saying. You don't realise how crazy you sound. That's exactly what someone in a cult would say. You don't realise how crazy you sound, right? Oh wait, there's this supernatural imagined thing that I can't explain to anyone else unless they've experienced the exact same thing that I've experienced. Like, no shit, right? It's like, oh, perhaps it didn't actually happen in the way you're describing it. It's just in your mind. How about you try and shut it for me, G-Shine? Right? How about that? You loser. Crazy ass motherfuckers, man. Anyway, I think it's time to obtain some food. Some fuel. Many people lie about their experiences, right? Think about an example of something like speaking in tongues. When one is initiated into a group where the norm is to speak in tongues, you'll feel like an outsider or that something is wrong with you if you too don't speak in tongues. Right? So just a simple thing like that describes how people lie about their experiences in order to fit into the in-group. Okay? That's just one thing that happens within Christianity. There are many other things like that. Right? And again, what is one of the foundational points of God creation and the supernatural world? It's based on hyperactive agency detection device. People experiencing sensory data and then assigning agency to it. So one normal, healthy-minded person hears a bump in the night and says that is either someone breaking in or someone in our house doing something. Someone with a less healthy mind may say that was a demon, that was a spirit, that was a ghost, that was a ghoul. Okay? That is what it looks like. Anyways, I've had enough for one weekend. Maybe I'll see you guys another time, or maybe not. So, thank you all for tuning in. Anything that I've said that you need to question further about, just leave a comment on the video or something like that, and then we'll discuss it. But other than that, I appreciate you all for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you later.